Yo, guys, what up? We're here for the Bayern Munich show. This is the Bayern show, man, where we'll be breaking up all things to do with the Bayern Munich. So remember, these club-specific shows that we do every Tuesday. So for this one in particular, we shall be focusing on Bayern Munich and looking at the ins and outs, man, ins and outs of Bayern Munich. So we're going to look at the past, look at the present, and look at the future. Very happy to have San in here. Very happy to have Bombast Blaster in here, and of course, Mr. Bayern Fan TV, who will obviously be giving their expert opinions on all these things, man. So remember, guys, I'll be looking at the live chats, taking your comments and so forth. Of course, if any super chats are there, that will obviously get priority. But I'll be looking at the live chat, seeing what as I was saying, and then we can get the conversation going, man. So look, man, let's just get straight down to it, man. So I want to start first with the past. I want to start first with the past, and I want to start with Nico Kovac and looking at what went wrong with Kovac, because when he was hired, remember, this is the guy that said what's up with Frankfurt, and this is the guy who people thought, look at what he was able to do, because he won the DFB Pokal Cup final, and there was a belief that he was going to come in, take Bayern Munich into kind of like a new era. But everything just screwed up. Muller was taken out of the team. The players didn't really sort of connect with the kinds of ideas and training regimes and philosophies that he was bringing it with, and it's just completely got screwed up. Hence why the hiring of Hansi Flick. But I want to look specifically at Nico Kovac and just look at what is it that went wrong. What did he do wrong tactically? Because it was somewhat similar to the Ancelotti situation, where you saw like the core of the players sort of revolt, which obviously led to his sacking and the hiring of your Pankins. But I'm going to come first to San. So in your view, what do you think what went wrong with Nico Kovac? Why did he fail when there was so much expected of him with what he did with Frankfurt?
So for Nico Kovac, the moment when he was hired, it was almost more or less he would eventually like lose his job in 2 or 3 years, because he was never Bayern's first choice. We actually had the audacity to ask Jupp to stay for one more extra year when he was remember in 17-18 when Jupp came back, and we were actually like begging him to remain at Bayern for one more year. So Nico Kovac was never first choice, and so the moment when he got hired, we didn't back him with any transfer. Yeah, we didn't back him with any transfers, if I'm not mistaken. So now let's talk about his first season. So for his first season, he had a terrible first half of the season, but he delivered in the second half when we won the double. We won the Deep Pokal and the Bundesliga. Our formation initially was the 4-3-3, which went miserably. Then Kovac had to switch to the 4-2-3-1, similar to how we played under Jupp in 17-18. So he won the double with 4-2-3-1. Then after his first season, then there was the summer break and then the training camp. Kovac, what he did was he was trying to implement the 4-3-3 formation once again. It was the formation that didn't work with us under Ancelotti, under his first half of the season. It didn't work. So it completely backfired. When the start of the season, he was trying the 4-3-3 formation. It failed. And then he panicked, and then he had to go back to the 4-2-3-1. So when he went back to the 4-2-3-1, by that time, I honestly think like the foundation of the 4-2-3-1 that won us a double was gone, because he used this whole training camp and the summer break to implement the 4-3-3. So whatever foundation that worked in the 4-2-3-1 in his first season was gone. So he had to restart again. So by that time,
because you're saying that the 4-2-3-1 was the one that worked, or was it the 4-3-3?
4-2-3-1 was the formation.
But then he wanted to implement 4-3-3.
Yeah, he was trying to do that. He did that in the DFB. The DFB Super Cup against Dortmund when we lost. He did this against the first game, Hertha Berlin. He did it against Schalke. He did it against Mainz, if I'm not mistaken. So he went back to the 4-2-3-1 eventually. That didn't work out too, because the foundation was already gone. But so we were in a terrible start in Nico Kovac's second season. Nico Kovac had no clue which formation was most suitable for. So from October to November, it was just individual brilliance game after game. And when we lost 5-1 to Frankfurt, it was clear Nico Kovac had to leave.
All right, Bayern fan TV, what about you? Where would you the whole Nico Kovac thing?
Well, for me, Nico Kovac is a typical case of someone that works at a lower club but won't work at a top club. And for me, the reason for that has to do with his attitude, his mentality. You can't come out in a press conference blaming players if you're not established yourself. You can't come out
Lampard, man. Frank Lampard. I'm hearing a lot of Frank Lampard vibes, yeah.
Exactly. And it's funny because Kovac used to play for Bayern as well. So you have that same link there as well.
Yeah.
But like for me, his most stunning statement was, I think after the Liverpool game, when he said that you can't press like Liverpool to because we don't have the players, we don't have the energy, we don't have the drive to do that, which is kind of ironic considering that now we press more than Liverpool a year later with the same exact players. But that for me was his most damning statement because he was doing that a lot throughout the whole season where, after every game, he would say, well, the players, they really didn't do what I expect of them. They didn't do what I want from them. And you're going to get the players against you. And if the players are against you, they're not going to work. It's as simple as that. For me, it's less so about the formation because most of these players that we currently have played under Pep Guardiola. And under Pep Guardiola, we would play 10 different formations in a season. So for me, it's not so much a case of formation being an issue, but more so their role or their lack of roles. Them not being.
Or do you think it could be because you most saw it with Lampard? Well, like for Lampard, I don't think it was anything to do with tactics. I think it's losing the dressing room. So specifically, Thomas Muller, who holds massive sway in that dressing room, him sort of like excluding him from that. So do you think that the players, he lost the trust of the players, or it was just bad performances on the pitch? What do you think there was a dressing room issue?
Well, at the beginning, it was more so like him implementing his idea. So it was more so a performance issue. But like once he then started blaming the players are not going to be happy. Like they're trying to understand his system. He just came in, they're trying to undo what he's telling them to do. And then he's blaming them for the performances. The players are going to revolt. And I feel like, first 5-6 months or so, granted, it was getting used to his system, but after that, it just completely fell apart because he just kept blaming them, and the players they were fed up. These are World Cup winners. These are winners that have won everything, so they're not going to take it from someone that hasn't done that as a manager.
Okay, Bombas, what about you? What do you think went wrong with Kovac?
Probably look. Not everything that Nico Kovac did was bad, and I want to say that this team was due for maybe not a complete rebuild, but at least some infusion of some new faces. You have to remember that this is a team that lost Philipp Lahm, that lost Bastian Schweinsteiger, Ribéry, and Robben. That's basically our complete on-the-ball identity. And these are very difficult players to replace. So he had a pretty tough task. He's not the right man for the job, but given that there wasn't really any other serious option available, it was an unhappy coincidence. Let's put it that way. There are two types of managers in this world. One that know how to use Thomas Muller and one that doesn't. And this is a guy that just doesn't understand how important this guy is to the way that we attack. Thomas Muller is borderline genius level intellect of the attacking third. His reading of the game, exploitation of spaces, and his connection with Lewandowski. You can't just put that guy on the bench, man. Like, it's never, ever going to work out for you in the long run. Also, Bayern Munich are a template team. We have played other formations, but across the last decade, 4-2-3-1 is the way we play, and it's the way we're happy to play. So you can bring in a manager that can add to that and put his own sort of personality in that, but you can't have someone say, you know what, this is a dated formation. We're going to play a modern 4-3-3 and stuff like that. If you're winning, it certainly helps. But if you lose, that's going to be your ass pretty quickly. So
you think that the Muller thing was the catalyst to his downfall?
Absolutely, man. Like Thomas Muller the first time I saw him was 2010 Champions League final. He came off the bench. This guy is a part of the furniture here, man. Not only that, but 10 World Cup goals, World Cup Golden Boot. I think at the moment he is Germany's most decorated player ever. And you think of some of the names that this country has brought forward, that's insane. His connection with with Kahn, with Rummenigge, with Hoeneß. You can't really succeed putting this guy on the bench, man, you know? And he's a fan favorite. He's a local boy. It's just Kovac bit off more than he could chew in that, you know? That's
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just before we move on, I think the whole thing is, look, if you're going to come in and do something new, you better win. It's similar to with Pep Guardiola, where he came in and was like, hey, look, I'm Pep from Barcelona. I'm not going to just copy what Heinkes did. So I'm going to put Lam at the DM. Fine. If you do that, you're not going to have to pretty much do what Heinkes did, which is win a treble or is win a Champions League. So the fact that you're going to come in, every man should be afforded the freedom to do what they want to do and remove what they want to do. Cool. But once you do that, you now have to deliver. The fact that you took away Thomas Muller, a key ingredient to this team, and he didn't deliver, I think that was just the recipe for his downfall. So now we move on to who took over from Dude. Hansi Flick. So now, you see, the thing with Flick is that he's been around for a long time. You know, when you look at Germany's World Cups, Euros and everything, he's always been part of the coaching setup. And this was risky because you would think that's okay. Because I remember when Kovac was sacked, I had the names of Wenger, I had Mourinho, and the key thing was, okay, let's go with someone established, you know, because it's a big club, big team, go with someone with huge experience. Flick has experience, but he doesn't really have head manager experience. So, because my thing is that his impact was pretty instant, and it's almost similar to what your Heinkes did. So the Bayern situation is sort of like where if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it's about less is more. You know, like once you just do a few things, the team will get working how they're working. Only if you overcoach will you sort of now try and mess things up. So coming first to San Mayaman, what do you think were the key things that Flick brought in, both tactically, psychologically, philosophically, that sort of was such a huge night and day change from what Kovac did?
Well, under Hansi Flick, I think he just brought back the old Bayern style of football. Like it reminds me of the 2013 treble one under Joop. Like the two Hansi Flick's tactics and Joop's tactics were pretty similar. Like under Hansi Flick, Bayern would gegenpress. I'm pretty sure we were the highest pressing team in Europe last season. So besides gegenpress, we would like to play through the center. We have varieties such as playing direct football, use wingers, fullbacks to hug the sidelines to provide width or crosses. And besides that, there will also be like fluidity. There will also be there was variety of attacking football combined with the gegenpress. So this was what made Bayern so lethal. We would like our front three of Lewandowski, Gnabry, Coleman, and plus Muller. They will always interchange a lot, which confuses the opponents, and it causes like positioning errors from opponents. So like under Hansi Flick, it just brought back the old Bayern football that we saw under Jupp Heynckes in 2013, like the old ruthlessness, the old direct football. It just reminds me of the previous Bayern philosophy of football. And honestly, like judging from Hansi Flick's tactics and the Bayern's philosophy, it's a match made in heaven.
All right, Bayern fans, if you talk to me, Flick.
Flick. I kind of disagree with what Sanmir said. For me, Flick is more of a combination of Jupp Heynckes and Pep, in a sense that with Pep, we really played a high line, extremely high line, and we still play that now. But obviously, we do press very high, which is very reminiscent of how we played under Jupp. The thing that Flick really brought in, which I really liked, wasn't so much that, he brought back Muller into the team, but it was more so that he brought this unity into this team. The whole team was behind him. They knew him. Some of them knew him from Germany. Obviously, other players knew him as an assistant coach. And at Bayern, very much like Sanmir said, is that less is more. This team has a style. The management has been trying to create a style. If you look back at what Rummenigge said I think roughly around 2012, is that he wants Bayern to have an identification. So you look at Bayern and you immediately recognize how they play, who they are, what they are. And we've been selecting coaches and getting coaches that kind of follow that same trajectory. So these players, they are used to playing a certain way, which is we press up high, we play a high line. We've got Neuer in the back, which is why we can do that. Our fullbacks, they bombard up and down, up and down, up and down, and our midfielders, they can drop back or they can go forward. They're very much good in both areas of the field. And then you've got the wingers that go inside, inverted wingers. And obviously you've got Lewandowski up front as well, who we can use either as a target man or who can use his hold-up play or his pressing to really win the ball. And then you've got Muller with his creative runs. And Flick, he just said, okay, you know what? That's how he liked to play. That's how he played, when he was in 2014. That's how he played with Germany. A little bit different, granted, with Germany, but that's how he played in 2014. Just have fun. Just have fun. We're going to score more than the opponent.
So what do you think was if you could just maybe pinpoint an aspect, the key difference between the Kovac approach and the Flick approach?
It comes down to leaders. You have leaders in all aspects of the pitch. With Muller coming back into the pitch, you have a leader in attack. With Kimmich in midfield, or Kimmich in defense, you have a leader in midfield or in defense. With Neuer at the back, you have a leader in the back. With Alaba, you have another leader there. So you have leaders all over the pitch in every single sector of the pitch. It also helped that we had the COVID break, because Goretzka, he was good before the COVID break, but he was basically told that if you want to be in midfield, if you want to dominate the midfield, you need to put on some muscles, because otherwise you're getting pushed around too easily. So that's what he did. And he's there. So we've got leaders all over the pitch. If especially now with no fans in the stadium, you can really hear the players, especially Muller and Alaba, really shouting all over the pitch and telling everyone to do that, do this, do that, and do that. And that really helps, because when you have a leader in every aspect of the pitch, you really can't slack. Because these players, they will tell you, no, you're not doing good, you're not good enough, you're going off.
Okay. Bombas, talk to me, Flick.
So when they sacked Kovac, I wanted Mourinho. I wanted Mourinho. And I remember that you said you thought this was a good appointment, because I still felt that there might be a chance to say what's up in the Champions League before Lewandowski goes the way of the dodo, Neuer, all these sort of guys. I thought maybe we could squeeze out one more, and I thought Mourinho was the guy. When Hansi Flick came in, Bayern were shattered. We were sitting down in the table. Dortmund were playing outside of their skins. This was like when Sancho and Hakimi were saying what's up and everything like that. And I was thinking, oh man, we could actually lose this. Hansi Flick came in within 45 minutes of his first game against Dortmund, the biggest game of our season, with a ravaged backline, full of injuries, makeshift backline. Within 45 minutes, I knew this guy was the man. I was shocked, bro. Shocked at the way we played that first 45 minutes against Dortmund. Alphonso Davies, man, embarrassed Jadon Sancho. He had to be taken off after 35 minutes or something like that. The improvement in David Alaba, Boateng coming back to say what's up, Neuer looking like the best goalkeeper in the world again, Thomas Muller, Joshua Kimmich, the levels that these players have raised under Hansi Flick is nothing short of incredible, man. How does he do it? Man, I'll be honest, I don't really know. I'm not privy to the information behind the scenes and why he's so good and stuff like that. I know that he had a previous relationship with some of these guys. I know that some of these guys see him as a friend, like he's been part of the backroom staff. He throws an arm around players. It could possibly be that Nico Kovac basically stopped short of saying this is a dying star team and it's time for something new. Whereas Hansi Flick came in and said, you can be the best team. Manuel Neuer, you could be the best again. Muller, Lewandowski, this is a winning team. Forget what that guy told you.
So then, would you then say that his strongest asset as a manager is more so than tactics, it's man management, similar to what Zidane does with Real Madrid? That he knows how to get the best out of players by giving them specific instructions and motivational skills.
I would suggest so. And I'll tell you why. In the last month, I've seen signs that other teams have sort of worked out what we do. And in this COVID-heavy era, we're not really able to press as hard as we can. I mean, I see maximum intensity for about 60, 65 minutes before we start sort of gassing. So I would have suggested that, Hansi, maybe it's time we start looking at something different just to grind out some of these things, because at the moment, fatigue-wise, it's just not possible to play the way you want to play. So tactics-wise, I think, I'll be honest, I think he's pretty limited. I think he just wants to play the way he wants to play, and he's pretty stubborn, and he will push us. But man management, yeah, it can't be understated, man. I think this guy's a chief. I think the players love him, and they want to perform for him, and they believe in him, and he believes in them. That would be his strongest attribute, I would say.
All right. And Infinity, Hansi Flick, what do you think? How do you think Hansi Flick was such an improvement?
Yeah, look, I think the main reason is his connection with the players and the staff inside.
Actually, can you change that AVI?
No, it's lovely.
Oh my god.
Oh yes, it's mainly his connection with the players and stuff. When Kovac was there, it's clear from how he was slating the players in press conferences and stuff that they weren't happy with each other. And if if the players aren't happy with you, they're not going to perform for you. And it's no surprise that as soon as you got a good relationship, the players started performing much better. You could see from how much they ran more, the high press, that they really wanted to play for this guy. And it's just shown by the players' interviews as well. They talk about how he always checks up on them regularly, how he has a good connection with them. And I saw from the first game against Olympiacos in 2-0, this guy knew what he was doing. He knew the type of system to play with the players we have. He also started integrating the youth more with Davies. He started playing people like Chris Richards and Musiala more as well. And I think it was against the game against Dortmund where we won 4-0, where the managers, where Rummenigge and them knew that this guy could be something. So they gave him a chance until the winter break. We had a few decent performances, 2 losses against Leverkusen and Mönchengladbach. But aside from that, we played quite good in most matches. And then it was really after the winter break where we really saw his system. The high pressing, it was the first games against Schalke and Hertha Berlin where we won 4-0 and 5-0. And from there, it just got better. And then we came up against your boys Chelsea. And
Yeah. Well, look. Let's put that to one side, man. I mean, Pulisic wasn't playing. If Pulisic played. So, what do you think Flick's strongest asset is as a manager? What do you think his strongest attributes is?
Yeah, it has to be his man management. Like, tactically, this guy's decent. I don't think there's anything to suggest that he's the best in the world. But it's clear that it's just this connection with the players is what makes the team really good. And he also has a consistent way of playing, unlike Pep, who just randomly changed during the big Champions League game for some reason. I think Pep sniffed before the game.
Okay. So let's talk about the big boy himself. Let's talk about the big boy himself, Lewandowski. So let me tell you my Lewandowski trajectory, and then I'll then lead on to it. So when he burst through at Dortmund under Klopp, I was like, wow, this is not that he's like R9, but he's a striker that reminds me of R9. Because what's made R9 so amazing was he was a footballing striker where he could play football. Yeah, he could finish and everything, but he knew how to play football. So giving the ball to his feet and he can come deep, he can do stuff, and he's very smart, and he can pretty much have an effect on the game further down the field. He's not just a target man or a finisher. Like his heat map is all over, inside the 18 yard, outside the 18 yard, and so forth. And he was crucial to Klopp's attack based on how he would connect with Götze, how he would connect with Marco Reus, and so forth, with the way that they would counter. So similar to what he does with Firmino, he's a striker, but he can also almost play like as a number 10. When it comes to Bayern Munich, I'm like, man, imagine what this guy's going to do at Bayern. But it wasn't the same. He wasn't getting the service. The system was different. And Robben and Ribery sort of did their thing. Because at Dortmund, he had players, specifically in the center of the pitch, closer to him. But in Bayern Munich, with Robben and Ribery, they were much spread out a lot wider. And for Robben, you know that guy is a greedy bastard. He's one of my heroes, but he's a greedy bastard. So he passes that freaking ball. So I was like, okay, yeah, we're not just not seeing the best of Lewandowski. And people say, is it like the lack of service, the system, and so forth? Now, obviously, I'll come first to Bayern Fan TV with this. An argument can be made that Lewandowski has looked his best, at least maybe statistically, under Flick. Because it just seems as if his goal scoring his effectiveness, how he's being used, how he's been introduced into the game is on a higher level. So is this a Lewandowski has tweaked his game thing? Is this a personnel thing? He's now playing with a Gnabry and a Koeman, two more selfless players. I mean, Ribery was selfless, but if you have two selfless wingers and you've got Muller as well, that means you have like a greater chance of actually receiving productivity and receiving chances. So you have whether it's Gnabry, whether it's Perisic, or whether it's Koeman. Specifically, Koeman and Gnabry. These are guys that are always willing to give you the ball. Or is it Flick's system? So why is it that Lewandowski broke goal scoring record last season, and the way he's going, he's continuing to score goals? Is this a Lewandowski thing, a personnel thing, or playing thing? What do you put to Lewandowski's upsurge in his goal scoring quality? Bayern Fan TV.
So for me, it's both. It's definitely the personnel. You alluded to it perfectly. Robin is not going to pass you the ball. He's going to take that shot. Ribery, he's a creator first and foremost, but he also will take that shot 9 times out of 10. But you have Muller, who's been extremely selfless. When he was younger, Muller, he was a lot more selfish. He was much more of a goal scorer. Nowadays, he's a lot more of a creator, which is kind of funny because him being a creator now really helps Lewandowski excel. And now that you don't have Ribery and Robin, it helps Lewandowski excel even more. Gnabry, I would say, is actually quite selfish. But with Gnabry, it's a case of he is so electric in some games that like he can score 3 goals and still assist 2. He's not like Robin, where, okay, I'm going to score 3 goals. I'm not going to assist. Gnabry will still, try and assist, try and play the better ball if he can. But especially Koeman. Koeman really helps in this case as well. I know Koeman's stats last season weren't that great, but his overall play is very helpful because he dribbles past players. He creates chances. Even if he doesn't necessarily get the assist like he's doing this season, he creates chances just by him being so quick and him being so good on the ball in terms of dribbling. Then you also have the likes of Kimmich, who's very good at getting assists. Who's very good at crossing the ball when he plays a right back or playing the ball through the center when it comes to when it comes to trying to set up a key pass or an assist. Now, for me, the biggest thing that really helps him as well, in addition to all these players working for him, essentially, is that we press so high. Us pressing so high, especially with Muller, especially with Koeman, especially with Gnabry, you have very quick players, and in Muller, you have someone that runs 90 minutes non-stop, that, like, if we win the ball up high, we're going to score. That's just a fact. Like, if we win the ball up high, it doesn't matter if it's Lewandowski, but someone is going to score. And it's very telling that, like, we've got the most goals scored that we've ever had at this point of the season. And, yeah, Lewandowski's obviously breaking records here and there, but you look at the other players. This season, okay, you could make an argument, well, Gnabry isn't really firing. But you still have the likes of Koeman, who's now firing. You have the likes of Muller, who's got 18 goal contributions in 18 games in the Bundesliga. So 1 goal a game, basically. You have Kimmich, who's got, like, I think 15 assists, something like that, all season, and he's been out for a month. So you've got players that will set up, players that will create, and then you've got Lewandowski who, if the ball is given to him, he will score, but he will also win the ball back and score. He'll also score that penalty, one of the best penalty records that I've ever seen. I think he's only missed like 3 penalties in his whole career out of like 50 penalties. So you've got all those factors combined, and it's like, it's perfect for him right now. He might get older. He might be getting older, I think 32, 33, but that isn't going to change much because it's not like he is a player that relies on pace, although he is also fast.
So let me ask you this. How many peak years do you think Lewandowski has left of playing at this level?
I'd say I don't really see him declining. I'd say 4, honestly. And I
What?
know how he's. Yeah, I don't think he's gonna get declined that much. His wife is a fitness coach, and like his body is his body is very similar to Ronaldo, where it's like he keeps himself in tip-top shape, and because his play doesn't really rely on pace, but rather his finding of the space, rather him winning the ball, rather him holding the ball, and rather him exploiting space. As long as Muller plays, I think Lewandowski will be at top level. That's my argument. As long as Muller plays, I think.
I mean, I did say what crazy, but then I then looked at his age. He's 32.
Yeah.
So he's going to be 33 this year. So if you look at it, 4 years, that's what, 36, 37? Probably makes sense. It might make sense. Probably makes sense. All right. Sanmaya, Lewandowski, talk to me.
Yeah, Lewandowski. best striker in the world without a doubt. He has got to be one of Bayern's greatest transfers in our history. Getting a striker that good for free is insane. And in his first season, Lewandowski didn't adapt to Bayern perfectly. But in his second season, which was 2015-16, he was beyond world class. He was a bona fide elite striker. The Lewandowski-Muller combination was one of the deadliest partnership in Europe. I feel like, yeah, it was crazy. However, I do agree Lewandowski's most successful season is last season. When Kovac was in charge, he was literally carrying the team. Every game, yeah, when Nico Kovac was in charge, he scored in every game. He was carrying the team. And when Flick took over, he was even better. This dude is literally a goal scoring machine. It's just such a shame that he couldn't win the Ballon d'Or this year. But the fact that he's currently 32 years old and he already has 22 goals in Bundesliga, it's January.
That's
so
crazy.
There's a lot of talks about him like potentially breaking Gerd Muller's Bundesliga record of like 36 goals.
So do you think that we are actually seeing the best of Lewandowski, that this is actually his peak?
I wouldn't be surprised because he said like he even admitted himself like he's getting physically even stronger now when he turned 30. I think like now that he's 32, I think he admitted like 1 or 2 years ago that he's getting even stronger physically. So it's possible.
Wow. Okay. What's it called? Bombast. Lewandowski.
The Polish nuke, man. He's back. He's back. To be honest, man, he never really left. He's been thereabouts. It's just that circumstances around him haven't really been the best in order for him to say what's up. Lewandowski is the definition of a consummate professional, man. Everything he does, he approaches with the angle of professionalism, hunger, drive, and excellence. He has a spirit of excellence. Lewandowski, under Hansi Flick, has been made a leadership figure in the team, which is the first time that this has ever happened. So Hansi Flick has trusted him to chew out some players, and I've seen it many times during this season, especially Coman. He likes to have a dig at Coman, but Coman needed it, to be honest with you. Why is he playing so well now? I think last season was his best season, to be honest with you. It seemed like even ugly balls that come off Muller's shin or his kneecap or something like that, he has the ability to put in the back of the net. He can create his own goals. He's good in the air. He's good in build-up play. He can dribble. He's actually deceptively fast. And his endurance and his sturdiness, this man is never injured, hardly ever. And if I could probably count on one hand how many bad games this guy has had at Bayern Munich. His style was different at Dortmund, correct? But I would say he has exceeded what he ever did at Dortmund here at Bayern Munich. And I'm glad he's won his Champions League now. I'm glad some people have gotten off his back. I think it's pretty insane that people mention Harry Kane and Lewandowski in the same sentence, to be honest with you.
No, that is crazy. So just as I was saying to Sanmai, so do you think that we're actually seeing his peak now? Because obviously normally I say that a player's peak is like 26, 27, 28 and 29. You're sort of going down though. But then you're looking at what Benzema is now doing. This is Benzema's best year. So do you think 32, 33, 34, 35 will actually end up being his best years?
No, I don't think so, man. I would probably say a lot depends on what happens with us this season, whether we can repeat or not. I would say maybe he has another 2 years of high-intensity football. Bayern Munich have one of the most energy-sapping gameplays of any club in Europe. And I would say it's pretty unfair to expect 4 seasons of this kind of intensity from him, of this kind of output. And a lot of his game depends on how well Muller's playing also. So I would say probably not. He hasn't been playing the best the last 3 weeks, I would be honest, but he's been getting goals. He's been grinding out victories and stuff like that, which is a good sign. But then again, Bayern, their attack has been sort of labored, shall we say. It's not really a well-oiled machine at the moment. And so you're seeing a bit of a dip in his output. But if we can repeat the Champions League, this season, I wouldn't put it past him and the drive and confidence to go ahead and try again to do it. But if we do not, I cannot say what will happen, to be honest with you, because, I mean, he's a human being at the end of the day. We all answer to Father Time. And, dude, Ronaldo's an alien. I don't know how he does it and what keeps him going and stuff like that, but I don't think I've ever seen, like, Ibra, Ronaldo. He could be. He could be one of these guys that just won't die and keep going on forever, given how he keeps his body going. But I won't expect that of him. I think he's done his time, man. I thank him for everything he's done.
All right. Infinity.
I think the main thing, his mentality and his dedication. I think a few years ago in 2018, after we lost to Real Madrid, he had his eyes set on Real Madrid. He wanted to go there. So he publicly blocked his move, and it kind of left a sour taste. So I don't think he was fully motivated to try for us in the season. We got knocked out to Liverpool, and it was just a bit of a bad season overall for us. And I think he heard the critics. He said what they said about him disappearing in the big games and stuff. So he decided to up his game instead of just letting his career fold. And he decided that he would be the man and show up for us throughout the season. And that's what led to a record-breaking season. His mentality improved, and especially with Hansi Flick, he really upped the service around him. Muller, Gnabry really improved that season, and Cohen seemed better as well.
So okay, so you think the key difference was this service rather than Lewandowski tweaking his game?
Oh no, Lewandowski tweaked his game as well. I'm just saying the service was another part of why it improved. Because before, remember in 2018, 2019, Gnabry and Coleman, they ghosted for most of that Liverpool tie. And in 2018, we had so many injuries. And this is technically his peak right now. But maybe in 2016, if he still had the same determination mentality, he might have been better than what he is right now. Because that's maybe when his technical ability might have been at his best right then. But I think his mentality and just what I mentioned before is why he's better than he was ever before.
So, but you said that he tweaked his game. How do you feel that he tweaked his game though?
I think his link-up play definitely improved. Especially with our high pressing game, we get more people in the box as well. And I think his link-up play with Goretzka and Muller and Gnabry, who likes to come in the box sometimes as well, his link-up play improved. And so he got him more assists. I think that helped him more in his assist department than goals. And also with Muller at his best, it helped take away people marking Lewandowski, gave him more space. And it's harder to mark him, so he got more goals like that as well.
Okay. So let's now move to another big name. I think this has probably been one of the most impressive players, I think, for Bayern, which is Joshua Kimmich. So I remember when I first saw the dude, he was right back. I was like, okay, this guy, seems like a decent right back and so forth. But I think it is always very hard for any right back at Bayern Munich to play because you're always going to be living in the shadows of a guy who I consider perhaps the greatest right back of all time in Lam, aka Bart Simpson. So that was always going to be very difficult. And I think that when, due to maybe injuries and so forth, Kimmich was now moved into midfield, I was like, oh wow, this guy knows how to deliver. Oh wow, this guy knows how to score. And I think at a very early age, you saw his versatility. Then we then went into the World Cup. And then it was a whole mess. Things were not really working as well. And I think he definitely got exposed badly at right back, specifically in the game against Mexico. So I do think that Joshua Kimmich's versatility is pretty much what saved him, because I think once he was now moved into midfield, basically it's like they have this saying of like, jack of all trades, master of none. You have to master one thing. It's cool being versatile, but what are you best at? Specialize at something and be the best at that one thing. You can't be the best at three roles. You can't focus on two things. You can only focus on one thing. And I do feel that the moment he now went into main midfield, you now saw, wow, this is his position. Now, if there's an emergency, okay, I can go right back. I can go centre back if there's an emergency. But everybody's fit and so forth. This is the midfielder. And you look at that pass in that Champions League final. Quality goal. Because again, you have to execute. And that was a great execution by Kingsley Coman. But the quality of the pass, the weighting of the pass, and how he was able to just literally put that perfectly in the hand of Kingsley Coman, I think it was a thing of beauty. And he's already now become one of Bayern Munich's most important players, specifically in the absence of Thiago, who we're going to get to. So to Bayern Fan TV, from when Joshua Kimmich first broke into the team and now, are you surprised by how much he's improved? And are you surprised by how good he has become? Honestly speaking, from the guy that he saw the first time for Bayern.
I'm not surprised at all. When he was at Leipzig, Stuttgart, then Leipzig, I guess, he was excellent in midfield. Like, he was excellent in midfield. And obviously, when he came to Bayern, we had a centre-back crisis under Pep. So he played as a centre-back. I remember that game against Juventus where he was flawless in centre-back against such a good team. And I said to myself, okay, this guy, he's a future. Like, I think he was like 21 at that time. He is the future. I said that right then, right there. He made a mistake in that game, which allowed Juventus to score. But just his overall game was so good that I was like, this guy is the future. Then when he played at right back, I was one of the strongest critics of that. I said he should be a midfielder. He should be in midfield. And I remember getting a lot of hate for saying that back then, but I guess I'm now proven right. But like, to me, his strengths were always how good he was in midfield. His passing was always the amazing thing. And the fact that he could build up from the back, and the fact that he would also go up forward and try and be in the box, almost like a box to box. But I would say he's a lot more hesitant in going up front, but he's still a goal threat. And I feel like that kind of like hindered him at right back. But I feel like now that I'm looking at it, him playing as a centre-back for half a season and him playing as a right-back really helped him improve defensively. So his passing was always there. His crossing was always there. His offensive contribution was always there. And now he's got the defensive abilities that he's gained as well that now make him an all-round fantastic midfielder. For me,
because I'm just looking at the live chat right now and just trying to be, I know it's a bit hard, but still trying to be objective here. Mm-hmm. Is Joshua Kimmich already the best midfielder in the world?
I've said that last season, and I'd say it again this season, yeah. For me, he was the most important midfielder that we had at Bayern last. I know you said that we're going to get to Thiago later, but for me, he was the most important midfielder at Bayern last season until he was then moved to right back. And for me, he's the reason why Bayern kind of fell apart this season a little bit because of his injury. When he went out injured, we kind of didn't look the same. When he's come back from injury, he hasn't really looked the same as well. But now in the last 2 games or so, he's actually really, he's gotten back to his level before his injury, and now we're suddenly starting to look up again. So for me, Kimmich is kind of the part that holds our midfield together. So for me, considering that, I consider ourselves the best team in the world. We won the treble. For me, Kimmich is the best midfielder in the world because he's the one that holds that whole team together. He's the glue.
Before I come to San Maya, what is his ceiling? Because I'm seeing Iniesta here. Just being on, what is his ceiling? As in, like, okay, this is where he can very be like. At the end of the day, what do you think his peak is, where he'll be regarded in the world?
So, I don't think he'll be the best midfielder Germany's ever had, because I feel the best midfielder ever for Germany will always be Lothar Matthäus. But I think honestly, he's going to be number 2 by the end of his career. I think he'll be right after Lothar Matthäus. For me, currently, the only midfielder ahead of him comfortably is Effenberg. But I feel like when you look at Schweinsteiger, for example, I think he's already on the same level, if not surpassed him. I know Schweinsteiger's a fan favorite. I know Schweinsteiger's a fan favorite, so Bayern fans probably won't agree with me. But to me, I think Kimmich by the end of his career will be a top 2 German midfielder, and I feel like he's gonna be regarded as in the same like top 10 that everyone else always gets regarded in. You always have your midfielders that are in this top 10, and people just can't agree who's number 1 and so on and so forth. So I think he'll be in that level.
All right, Sadmaya, man, talk to me, Joshua.
So when Kimmich last season, when he requested that he wants to play in midfield, I was actually against that because I didn't think I wasn't at that time. I wasn't a fan of Benjamin Pavard at right back, so I felt like we needed a right back, and Kimmich is just the perfect right back for us. But then Kovac and Flick decided that Kimmich is a midfielder, is our like one of our most important midfielders. So I've grown to gradually accept that. And in my opinion, Kimmich last season, like I feel like it took him I feel like it took him like around 3 to 4 months to adapt to being a full-time like Bayern midfielder. And when it reached to like February of 2020, that's when he really came to his own. That's when he really shown his capability of being a bona fide world-class midfielder. That's when he shown that, oh yeah, this guy can be definitely a world-class midfielder, Bayern's midfield general for years to come. So that's when I'm going to like accept that. Okay, Kimmich, you were right. You were right to request being a midfielder, because I was actually frustrated. I was like, you should just play right back, because we have Thiago, we have Tolisso, we have Goretzka. So I was against that. And this season when Thiago left, I think Kimmich has replaced him very well. Kimmich, like his strengths are, of course, his passing, his vision. His vision is insane. His composure, his build-up play, and also his abilities to like his shooting. His shooting is pretty good too. So Kimmich is like a very versatile. It's almost like in midfield he can play. He can also play. He can DM. He can be a central midfielder. He can also box to box midfielder. He's so versatile that he can almost play many positions. And I think one time Jose Mourinho said something about his versatility, about how he's such a versatile midfielder, which he can be in world class for many positions, and that perfectly sums it up. So Kimmich, yeah, I'm very happy he is our.
So
yeah.
you'd already say that he's the best midfielder in the world.
Uh,
So better than Kroos, better than Modric, better than De Bruyne.
I'll have to wait until this season finishes to say that. I'll have to wait until the season finishes, because for me personally, I do think last season Thiago was better than Kimmich last season. That's just for me personally, but yeah. But I'll wait until this season finishes, and then he could be the best midfielder in the world.
All right. Bombast. Joshua.
This guy is the atomic ant. There is the spirit of a giant living inside this little man. Same with Philipp Lahm, to be honest. He walked around like he was at least 3 foot taller than he actually was, and he commanded respect. When I first saw this guy trying to fill the shoes of Lahm, I didn't hold it against him or anything. We needed somebody, but I never thought that he could go on to become the best right back in the world. He will never be as good as Lahm was at right back. That's just a fact of it, to be honest. But he was good enough to fill what could have been a monumental hole for Bayern Munich, possibly unfillable hole. When I saw Joshua Kimmich be selected for the German national team 2016 Euro, and Germany were looking decent. They were looking decent. They came through the old bogey team of Italy. And then in that France game, it's sad to say Germany lost that game because the ball came through on Joshua Kimmich's side and we lost. I saw Joshua Kimmich crying after that game, and he was a young man. But there was a look on his face that said, this will never happen again. The drive and determination of Joshua Kimmich, the hunger, and he backs himself, man. He has scored some really big, important goals. Is he the best midfielder in the world? Quite possibly, yes. He's not as creative as Modric, but he's close. He's not as clinical and cold as Kroos, but he's close. His goal scoring is not as prolific as KDB, but it's pretty close. His defending ain't Kante's, but it's close. The combination of all these things mean he can greatly influence a game in both directions. And, what can't he do? What would you say Joshua Kimmich does not do well?
Oh, no, look. You see, as I said again, the guy is, in terms of a midfielder, the dude is quality. And someone may say, okay, well, does he have the kinds of dribbling skills and so forth? But you don't need that for a central midfielder, because, when you have specific roles, there are specific things that are required, and anything else is, that's just desserts, like, extra stuff. But like the meat and potatoes of a central midfielder is passing, tackling, decision making. Now if you're a winger, I think you need a bit of dribbling on you. So with regards to the core characteristics of the central midfielder, he does those things very, very well. And also as well, because you say he's not creative. I think you're seeing his key creativity in terms of the kind of penetrative passes that he's making from midfield. But before I come to Infinity, what is his ceiling? What do you think his peak is?
Well, being that Bayern Munich is a different kind of club, a different kind of heritage to, let's say, Arsenal, Chelsea, United. In order to be a German legend, you have to win a World Cup. That's just the fact of it, man. Otherwise, you're going to go down the road as Michael Ballack. Don't get me wrong, I loved Michael Ballack, but it's you mentioned Schweinsteiger. This guy's you can't mention the two in the same sentence at the moment. Joshua Kimmich will be the future captain of this club. There's no doubt about that. And he might go on to captain Germany to a World Cup. But until he does something like that, man, I think ceilings and all that. I mean, I already said I think he's the best midfielder in the world based on his versatility and how good he is at multiple things. But legendary status and all that kind of stuff, you would have to wait for something like that, to be honest.
All right, Infinity Stones.
Yeah, look, Kimmich, man. I think best midfielder in the world. He's the most complete, alongside Verratti in terms of defensive, passing, his football intelligence.
Infinity, boost your mic. You're quite low. Boost your mic.
Wait, let me just hold on. Is it better now?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Yeah, I think he's the best midfielder in the world. Clearly, alongside in terms of how complete he is, I think only Verratti matches him in terms of defensive work, passing, his mentality, how his mentality alone just ups the whole teams. It gives them motivation. He's a strong leader. His footballing intelligence, and he's not physical, and that's what you might need sometimes to help protect the defense as well. But he always knows where to be to intercept the passes, and he's a big game player. That's what Bruno and KDB, they don't consistently deliver in the big game. Kimmich, he pocketed Mane in that first leg for Liverpool, was banned for the second leg, showed up against PSG, put on a masterclass against Barcelona, and I think I think at his peak, he will definitely be the best midfielder of his generation. I think I can't see anyone who will beat him there. I don't know where he'll rank all time. It depends on what he does in the upcoming national tournaments. I think Euros we can't win. He can't win that because that Brit Low will still be around. But maybe by the time World Cup, a bomb.
But do you think he could potentially get to an Iniesta level when all is said and done?
Well, in terms of greatness or ability?
No. I mean, in terms of just impact and basically ability impact on the game.
Yeah, I think he could. It's too early to say though, because we haven't really seen what he can do without Thiago. We respected him because Thiago was a big factor, but he can still show that he can do it without Thiago. He destroyed the Atletico midfield, and we'll have to see what he does for Germany as well, and who knows what he'll do for us in the future in the Champions League.
All right. So now comes to where we now. I need some honesty now. Thiago Alcantara. You see, maybe I need to make like a half apology. I don't know yet, but I'll just walk you through this. So, I remember seeing Thiago for Barcelona, and I was like, "Oh, this guy is a quality player." But this is when it was peak Barcelona. So then he was an attacking midfielder. Keyword, and you have just remember that he was an attacking midfielder. And in a team that had so many options, he didn't have enough game time. So he had to leave to get game time, and thus he now went over to Bayern Munich. But Bayern Munich don't play the same way that Barcelona have. Bayern Munich is not as attacking a team as Barcelona are, and Bayern Munich don't have as many men committed in the opposing half as Barcelona do. So he had to now go further back into the pitch, central midfield. I remember when I mentioned different roles, like if you're an attacking midfielder, dribbling is needed because you needed to beat players and so forth. Now, if you're now further back, your passing needs to be greater, ball retention needs to be greater, and your utilization of the ball. It is a whole different dynamic. Like Xavi's strengths and Iniesta's strengths are two very different things based on the heat map they have on the pitch. And I'll be real with you, up until maybe last year, I was like, what impact has Thiago made on Bayern Munich? Because you saw the impact that Schweinsteiger made. It was huge. Like, what's it called? If you look at that, between, like, I'd say 2013, 2014, I feel Schweinsteiger was the best central midfielder in the world. But Thiago never really, especially specifically in key games, he never really said what's up in key games. Where like, okay, I'm the central midfielder right now. I am bossing this game. I'm controlling the game in the way that Schweinsteiger did. Because again, I remember that game, Bayern, Barcelona, second leg, Camp Nou, 2013. Schweinsteiger's performance in that game was amazing. And this was in the heights of tiki-taka. Just his composure on the ball and how he controlled that game in the company was amazing. So I was like, okay. So my thinking was that, is Thiago's strength really more of an attacking midfielder rather than a central midfielder? But he then saw last year, where I felt that he was money. And many people would argue that he was the best player on the pitch in the Champions League final. So when Bayern let him go, I was like, whoa, what are you doing? How would you let go a guy that was so important to your treble? But now we're now seeing Liverpool. And I'm not a big stats guy, but I'm just to put it out there and you can react how you want to react. Liverpool haven't won a game that Thiago Alcantara has started in. Read into that however you want, read into that however, because there's so many different things, but just put that to one side.
He's not playing him the right way.
And when you just look at, because he's still playing well, he's still doing his thing, but you can see that it's maybe not working in the sense of the kind of quick passes that Liverpool are needed. But maybe you want to read further. Is it a Thiago issue or is it more so a personnel player issue and an attacking issue? So coming first to Bayern Fantasy with this, man, is because this is what I just want to know. So I'll ask you a couple of questions. Were you happy with the contribution that Thiago Alcantara made? How important was Thiago Alcantara over the past few seasons and last season? And do you feel that you will miss something, him leaving? So obviously the couple of questions. So the first one is getting him, looking over his tenure. Were you happy with the contribution he made to you all? How important do you think he was to the team? Do you think you're losing anything by him leaving?
Okay. So the first question, was I happy with his contribution to Bayern? Yes. His biggest strength at the beginning of his Bayern career was his versatility. You kind of said this earlier that like at Barcelona, he used to be more of like an attacking midfielder. At Bayern, he was everywhere. He played further forward. He played much deeper. He could play anywhere on the pitch. And I feel like that really helped him and that really helped Bayern because we used to always have so many injuries. We still have a lot of injuries nowadays, but we used to have a lot more injuries back in the day all over the field. And he always put in a good shift. He always played very, very well. So I can't really say that, like, he wasn't important to Bayern. He was very much important. It was only until like the last 2-3 years, I'd say, where he became a key player, where he became a player that, you expect to see on that first 11. It was only until like 2-3 years ago where I could say that I was expecting him to start every game, essentially. And for me, his biggest strengths that I almost want to say his consistency, but it's not so much his consistency in the manner that you usually associate with consistency, which is, you play good game in, game out. For me, his consistency really was a lot different than usually, which is that even when he was playing bad, even when he had bad games, he would still do his job very well. Which is that like he would still circulate the ball very, very well. Even when he was poor, he would still be able to do that very, very well. My issue is that like for me, his creativity has dropped off, and that has to do with him dropping further back, because his creativity was pivotal in a lot of games. For example, I look back in the game against, you mentioned Barcelona earlier, but I look back at the game against Barcelona in, was it 2015 or 2016? The MSN. The Bayern versus Barcelona 2015. Yeah, the game at home at the Allianz Arena, he created plenty of chances. We could have scored from those. There was one chance that I remember where he dribbles past two players, then lays the ball off to, I think, Muller, and it's saved by Ter Stegen. He created like 5 or 6 chances in that game alone, and that's when he played further forward. But then when he like dropped back, his only strength really was his ball circulation. So while I do feel attacking-wise, he was a lot more a lot more hit and miss, but because his hits were so high, but his misses were so low. So like when he was good, he was very good. When he was poor, he was not that good. But as like further back, more as a like defensive midfielder, he's a lot more consistent in the way that like he, even if he has a bad game, he's still excellent at what he does. So you kind of like, there's a good trade-off to be made. Like, do you want to play him further forward and play him where he could be potentially at his best, or do you want to drop him further back where like he's good at what he does, but he's not gonna put out a 10 out of 10 performance, in my opinion.
So, do you think you're missing anything by him leaving, or do you think that you can cope, or do you think that Bayern Munich have missed something important by him leaving?
Yes and no. Yes, because the thing is, our other midfielders are currently Tolisso, Goretzka, Rocha, who barely plays, and Javi. Goretzka, his job is basically to be all over the pitch. Like, he's not really the creative force. He scores a lot of goals, but he's not really gonna unlock a defense. Kimmich is the only one that can take up that mantle. Tolisso is very similar to Goretzka, where like he goes into the box, tries to score, but he's not gonna circulate the ball well. He's not gonna create much. So when Kimmich was injured, we really missed Thiago. But when Kimmich is fully fit, and we can play, say, Goretzka next to Kimmich, or say Tolisso next to Kimmich, Thiago's not that missed. So if Kimmich gets injured again for long term, Thiago, there will be a massive hole in midfield. But as long as Kimmich stays fit, I don't miss him that much, to be completely honest.
Sadmaya, talk to me, Thiago.
So first of all, to answer that Liverpool's run of form, I honestly think it has nothing to do with Thiago. It's just the board's fault for not buying a centre back in this transfer window. Like, just look at Henderson, Fabinho playing centre back. It's their fault. Like, why would you ask your two midfield to play centre back? So that's their fault. Thiago, for me, he's what I call like a hybrid attacking midfielder and a defensive midfielder. Like, he's not exactly like a Regista, or he's not exactly a Mezzala, but he's almost like a hybrid between. Like, he's like, to perfectly get the best out of Thiago, you play him in a double pivot. I feel like he's best in a double pivot than in a three-man midfield, which he has all this freedom to dictate the midfield, to control the tempo of the game, and to recycle possession, and to utilize his like excellent passing range. So that's how you get the best out of Thiago.
So, so you think like he's better further back in the field rather than further up attacking wise?
I feel like he's better in a hybrid. I wouldn't say he's not like a Bruno or a KDB in terms of that attacking midfielder, but I wouldn't also consider him like a Regista, like a Jorginho or Benacer. He's not exactly like that. He's almost like a hybrid of both. So it's almost like a Marco Verratti. Like, I feel like it's more like that. So I feel like Bayern, we do miss Thiago, because I feel like we do miss his technicality, his creativity, like Thiago's ability to dictate the midfield, to bypass opponents, him being very press resistant. I feel that's something that...
Okay, so you would say that even based on what he's done, Thiago is still more creative than Kimmich?
I think he's more creative than Kimmich. I feel like he's more technically gifted than Kimmich.
True.
I feel like he's better defensively than Kimmich. So I feel like that's an aspect that we miss of Thiago. But I feel like Kimmich's vision, he's better at getting assists. I think that's an area Kimmich is better. But we do need like a player that can dictate the midfield, that can control the tempo of the game, and that's when we really miss Thiago. Yeah.
Bombast.
Thiago Alcantara is a joy to watch on the ball. If he's in the mood to play, I have seen some pretty shocking performances by Thiago Alcantara over the years, but I don't begrudge him. I love Thiago Alcantara. I was very sorry to know that he was about to leave. I didn't want him to leave, but I understand why he needed to. I know the club wanted him to stay, but I also know that they know the future is Joshua Kimmich and Leon Goretzka, and they did the lion's share of that treble in the midfield. Hansi Flick is one of the most serendipitous managers in the world. Some things that happen outside of his control force his hand to do these things that end up working out great, to be honest with you. Because when Pavard was injured and Joshua Kimmich had to go back to right back and Thiago got his chance for the last 3 games in the Champions League run, that was the best I have ever in my life seen Thiago Alcantara play. The most reliable, the most creative. I thought, wow. But Thiago Alcantara realized the writing is on the wall and he's not really going to start ahead of Kimmich as previously in the season he wasn't. And this is too good a player to sit on the bench. And selfishly, for me, that's exactly why I wanted him to stay, because the drop-off in quality between Thiago and Tolisso is monumental. Like, put it this way, Tolisso, he's done out here. He's going. Like, he's not going to stay. He's finished. And you can't keep a player this good as a backup. And he rightly, I think he did the right thing for his career. As far as Liverpool, I would say they have far bigger problems than Thiago. In fact, I would say he's probably one of the few things going for them in this season rather than working against them. And he's kind of like a one-man system in himself. You put him on the ball, he asks for the rock, he loves the rock, man. He has to have the ball. And you sort of autopilot and you organize the team around him and stuff like that. And I think once Klopp understands that, he will come good for them as well. But it's just a different way.
But what did the Bayern have missed something big, letting Thiago go? I think that's they can cope.
If I had someone better than Tolisso to back up, I wouldn't miss him as much, to be honest with you. I believe in Joshua Kimmich. Creative-wise, look, Thiago Alcantara, his ability to avoid the press is basically his best thing, especially in our midfield. When we push our opposition back, we need someone that can just dummy a player and do that. And Joshua Kimmich really doesn't have that in his game outside of a 1-2 with Goretzka or something like that. But he will learn because he has the spirit of excellence. And I think Bayern Munich did the right thing, even though it was the harsh thing. But that's football, man. Sometimes the cookie crumbles and you don't have... Yeah, it's just the way it worked out, man.
Okay, so this is now... I'm going to bring in almost like it's like a double whammy now. And this is these two dudes, man. So I want to talk about Neuer and Muller as like a double whammy in the two of them. You see, for me, we have to wait because, again, I told you, man, that I said it's called hashtag the sixth horseman, hashtag the sixth horseman. And you can only be a horseman after you retire. That's when you get reviewed. And Neuer has a good case. We don't know whether he'll do it, but he has a good case to be the sixth horseman, because I think the thing with Neuer is during the whole Kovac period, people were like, he's done, he's finished, and this was the rise of De Gea. Couto was coming into the fold. The people were like, okay, well, no, you did your thing, you had your treble, you had your World Cup, boom. But then Flick comes in, and then Neuer reminds people, and you can make an argument. You can make an argument that Neuer deserves to be in the kind of final three with regards to best players of the year. And I would argue that he was the most crucial player in that final, based off the kind of key saves he made in the final against PSG. And I think Neuer that's what great players do. Great players, you think they've fallen off, they write you off, and say, oh, you write me off? All right, I'm going to come back and say what up, which is what Neuer did perfectly. And I think right now, Neuer is establishing himself where you really have to put my name in as one of the GOATs, if not perhaps the GOAT, because we saw how Casillas declined, and we're now seeing how 70-year-old Buffon is declining. Thomas Muller, I think in Muller, it's a thing of, I think we've sort of mentioned it earlier before, you have to know what he is. Muller is not the kind of player that you pick for futsal. He's not the kind of player that you pick for indoor football or five-a-side. But 11-a-side, this level of football, he is vital. Because in this level of football, of course, skills, tricks, that's a key hallmark of football. But you need an intelligence player who just does the right things. And specifically what Muller did for Bayern Munich last season and so forth, and the kinds of spaces that he takes up, you can see the kind of importance that he brings to the team. So coming first to Bayern Fan TV, speak about both of them and their importance to Bayern, Neuer and Muller.
So Neuer, I want to say this right away. Neuer is not my favorite goalkeeper of all time. That will probably be always Oliver Kahn, just because I grew up watching him.
Oh yeah.
But Neuer is the best goalkeeper of all time. I'll say that right now. Now, I've been watching a lot of old football recently. When I say old football, I'm talking about like 1950, 1960 football.
Oh yeah.
And people always obviously go Yashin. Yashin is the best goalkeeper of all time.
Nah, give me a break. Now that's some lies.
So I made it my mission to watch him as much as possible over these past 2 months. And I'm sorry, but Neuer is better. For me, Neuer easily, not even like a discussion. For me, it's easily the best goalkeeper of all time. He redefined the goalkeeping position. The fact that like when he came to Bayern, there was a whole movement against him from the Bayern fans because he used to be a Schalke ultra. You know, Bayern fans used to have the sign that says "Korn Neuer," which basically means "No Neuer" or "Neuer, get out of here." And he came to Bayern, already had this pressure on him, and then he performed to such a good levels that all the Bayern fans that were against him, that want him out, shut up immediately. And to have to prove that against your own fans, that says a lot. His performances are, for me, the greatest goalkeeping performance I've ever seen in my life was the performance he had against Porto. That performance with Schalke against Porto is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, for me, that is the best football, not just goalkeeping performance, the best football performance I've seen of all time. For me, the craziest save as well, where he just saves it with his foot in the air, as if it's like kung fu. I was like, what is going on? He's not my favorite goalkeeper, as I said, Oliver Kahn. I wouldn't even put him in my top 3 favorite goalkeepers. It's kind of odd, but he is, for me, the greatest goalkeeper. He doesn't have the insane reflexes that someone like Oliver Kahn had, whose whole game was reflex-based.
Or even Buffon.
Yeah, or even Buffon. But what he has is his positioning. When you actually look at his positioning inside the goal, it's different. It's completely unique. Like, usually goalkeepers, they would come out in certain moments and he just stays back. When other goalkeepers would stay back, he would come out. And it's like the thing that you usually taught. I used to play goalkeeper, so I noticed the thing that you usually taught in goalkeeping training. He just says, I'm doing it different. I'm doing it my way, and it works. Like, he would open up the entire goal, go to like one side of the goal when a player's coming one-on-one. He would open up the entire goal so that you're essentially telling the player, here, take your shot on this side. It's all open. Just so that he would save it. Yeah. And it really, I'm really looking forward to like the next generation of goalkeepers, because a lot of them, you look at like Donnarumma, for example, he mentioned once that he looked up to Neuer. Like, he's looking at Neuer to redefine his goalkeeping game. And I feel like the next generation of goalkeepers, we're going to see a lot of them that come out of their goal, that play with, with the ball a lot more. So I feel like the next generation of goalkeepers are all going to come down to how good Neuer has been. So for me, he's the most influential goalkeeper, but he's also the best goalkeeper. Now, in terms of Muller, it's very telling that the coaches at Bayern that succeeded were the ones that played Muller, and the ones that failed at Bayern were the ones that did not play Muller.
Also, Ancelotti didn't play Muller much.
He didn't play him to his strengths. He played him on the wing.
Oh, okay.
So the coaches that knew how to use Muller were the ones that succeeded. Now, you mentioned that Muller is not the most technical gifted player, but I feel like people underrate his technicality. He's actually a very good crosser of the ball. He's very good, even dribbling. It's kind of odd. Like, you don't really associate Muller with dribbling, but the fact is that because you don't expect it, when he does it, it just completely takes you out of the game. A couple of, I think like 3 games ago, where he did like, a crazy, like a turn. The player didn't expect it. It was like, Muller doesn't turn, and then he got a penalty for that because he fouled him. So it's like he does the unexpected, the things that you don't expect. He's obviously very clinical. As I already said earlier, for me, when he was younger, he was much more of a goal scorer, more of a second goal scorer. Now he's much more of a creative player. His stats, even at his worst seasons, were never bad. And it's there was an interview that Pep Guardiola did a few years ago. Not an interview, but he was talking to fans where he said, there are times when Muller is playing and he's playing so bad, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to substitute him out, and then suddenly Muller would score 2 goals 5 minutes later, and that's it's kind of there used to be a joke among Bayern fans that like to translate it into English, it's basically like he mullered that goal, which means that he scored it in his own way. Like when he doesn't play good, he still scores. When he plays good, he dictates the game. For me, his best game were the 2 games against Barcelona. The one last year's season and the one in 2013. In 2013, he was, in my opinion, the best. That was one of the best one of the best performances I've seen against a top team. I think he scored 2 goals, and I think he created another one. So like he was involved in 3 of the 4 goals that we scored against Barcelona that day. And he's one of those players that you look at, you're like, yeah, he's average. He's a jack of all trades. He's good at this. He's good crossing. He's got a good shooting ability. He's got a good, this and that. But he's not really excelling anything. And then you look at him. You just focus on him, and you see, wait, he's making this run. He's making that run. He's making that run. Even when he doesn't get the ball, he's making those runs to take that defender off the position. And that's kind of the strength. You have him in a team, and he succeeds. You look at my last point. You look at against Arsenal, I think it was 2014, where Claudio Pizarro scores in the last minute of the game. Philip Lahm is on the ball, just outside the box. Müller makes a run that just takes the Arsenal defender completely with him, and Claudio Pizarro is free in the box and just heads it in, and that's the end of the game. It's like these little runs that he constantly does that just help the team, even if it's not something tangible.
All right. Sanmaya. Neuer and Muller. Talk to me.
Yeah. So first of all, I'll just start off with Muller first. A lot of German people always call him the space interpreter. And I'll just bring just 2 quotes. Hansi Flick said he's the coach's right-hand man. And Van Gaal one time said Muller always plays. Those are 2 very good quotes that perfectly describes who Thomas Muller is. Thomas Muller is brilliant. He is the system. We Bayern Munich play our football. We depend on Thomas Muller too. We depend on Thomas Muller as that attacking midfielder. We build the team around him, and when he doesn't play well, we usually don't play well. When he plays well, we play well. And when he first burst onto the scene in the World Cup 2010, he really caught my eyes. When he won the Golden Boot, I think, in the 2010 World Cup, and then he was known for. So Muller, like in his before 2017, he was more of a goal scorer. He was exactly what I call like a second striker, and ever since he missed that penalty against Atletico, he lost his goal scoring touch. And then the following season, Ancelotti, he kind of fell out with him. He didn't play very consistently. And then when Jupp came back, he used Muller consistently again. But even when Jupp came, he still didn't quite find the goal scoring touch. And then I feel like when Hansi Flick came 2 years later, that's when I really realized Muller really changed his game. He might have changed his game earlier. Maybe I haven't realized that.
But changed his game how though? Changed his game how?
Went from a goal scorer to just strictly an attacking midfielder. He was a second. He used to be like a second striker, like almost like a perfect like a 4-4-2 formation type of player. And then he altered his game to like a 4-2-3-1, like what you call like an attacking midfielder. That's when he really changed his game. So it's just amazing how he went from being a great goal scorer to breaking the assist record in the Bundesliga. How he can change his game to like that, and it's just such a shame that like the German coach doesn't call him back for the national team because if Germany would have him in this upcoming Euros, I think they have a very high chance of getting past the group stage. So it's just a shame. And yeah, he's gonna go down as the Bayern top 5 legends of all time. He's gonna go down as top 5. And for the person next to him, Neuer, for me, he's the greatest goalkeeper of his generation. Like he's better than Casillas, he's better than Buffon, he's better than both of them. I remember his performance against Manchester United when he was still back playing for Schalke. He was insane the 2 games. Like I feel like, and I remember like at the end of the game, Ferguson came up to him. He's like he came and shook his hands. He's like he wanted Neuer on his team for playing for Manchester United. Like yeah. So and then he came to Bayern. He had pressure like Bayern fan TV said, like some Bayern fans didn't really embrace Neuer for after what he did the Oliver Kahn celebration at our stadium. So he had that pressure, but the way he overcome that, the way that he became a Bayern's captain currently, he went from not being embraced by the fans to now wearing the armband of Bayern Munich is just incredible. And I know a lot.
Okay, so you would put him as greatest keeper of his generation, but you wouldn't say greatest keeper of all time.
I haven't seen because I've only really followed football after 2010, so I don't really know too much about before the goalkeepers. I'm not confident to say he's the greatest goalkeeper of all time because I was just taking others' words for it. So I'll just say of his generation because I'm confident that he's better than Casillas, he's better than Gigi Buffon, he's better than both of them. And last, I've ended with this. A lot of people always praise Ronaldo for the big game mentality, but for me, I think Neuer is the epitome of a big game player, even more so than Cristiano Ronaldo. He is a player that steps up to the big occasions. He kept a clean sheet for 120 minutes in the World Cup final. How he didn't win the best player of the World Cup is beyond me. It should have been Neuer. And he kept a clean sheet in the Champions League final in 2020. He's what I call a big game player. And he's a Bayern legend. He's our captain, and I'm very happy to have him.
All right. Bombas.
You are looking at two of the most intelligent players in world football today. Going first to Muller, his best attribute is his brain. Like growing up around talented players in Germany, he knew he didn't have the tools to match them in what they do. So he adapted his game to make himself more effective than anybody else around him. Thomas, games have a rhythm. It's like music being written in real time. And the best players can anticipate what the next note of that score is going to be. And they read the game and they put in an interception or they put in an incisive pass or they put in a goal or what have you. Thomas Muller marches to the beat of a different drum than the opposition. And sometimes even the rest of the Bayern Munich players. Some of the things this guy tries to pull off on the football pitch, they're just like mad scientist type ideas. Like, dude, I can't believe you tried to just pull that on the pitch. Like, how did you think that was going to happen? But Lewandowski speaks fluent Muller. And his ability to read the final third and to pop up in a place that no one thinks. Sometimes the positions I see him take up, I'm like, dude, what are you doing standing there? There's nothing going on over there. There's nothing popping up over there. And he shuts me up in the next like 10 to 20 seconds with a cross or some pass or something that comes off his kneecap or his nose or some dirty looking scrappy thing. But bro, it works. It works. And how he come by 10 World Cup goals, I'll never know, man. Like Batistuta doesn't have 10 World Cup goals.
Yeah.
Like go figure, man. How does that happen? I love this player, man. He's one of my favorite players. He's a funny dude. He is the voice of Hansi Flick on the pitch. And I think that when Hansi Flick trusted him with this, you just saw him go to another level. And I remember when Manchester United were trying to buy this guy, and I was like, this is a big mistake. Not only for Bayern Munich, but for Manchester United, because I promise you, Thomas Muller could not be him in any other team in the world. He's just too weird and uncouth.
Yeah.
He would look kind of like the way Havertz is looking for Chelsea at the moment. You would just be looking at him and thinking, dude, what the hell is this guy trying to do right now?
Yeah, like Bayern is his home. Bayern is his home. So what about Neuer then? So where do you stand on Neuer? Because that's the debate now. I think he's obviously 100% in the conversation. So are you greatest of his generation? Greatest of all time? What side of the fence?
Manuel Neuer is the greatest goalkeeper of all time. I was holding out for the longest time. When people were saying GOAT, I let it be because at the end of the day, Oliver Kahn took a team of nobodies to the last 20 minutes of a World Cup. He carried a team of nobodies to the last 20 minutes, and in the end, it took R9 to get past him.
Oh, no, because many people, like, if Germany had won that, he'd have won the Ballon d'Or and best player in the world, 100%.
100%. I think he did win best player of that tournament, which is the first time a goalkeeper
Yes, I think he did.
ever won.
I think he did. Yeah.
Like, I've never seen a performance like that from a goalkeeper in a World Cup. But and then people say, well, Manuel Neuer won a World Cup. And I'm like, dude, if that German team did not win that World Cup, there would have to be massive questions asked, man, because that was a super stacked team. He had all the tools around him. Oliver Kahn had nobody, really. But when I saw Neuer make that double save in the Champions League final, I was like, you know what, bro? I think this guy might be the best of all time. Not so much the reaction save, the initial save against Neymar, but the awareness to make that double save. Mbappe wasn't even expecting the ball. Even Mbappe didn't know that the ball was planning to come to him. Like, the only two people in that moment that knew what was going on was Neymar and Neuer. And I was like, dude, how did you know he was going to do that? After an outstanding first save like that, most goalkeepers would have thought the job is done. But how did you know that it wasn't yet? And I was like, you know what, man? After that, the amount of saves, like last-ditch all-or-nothing saves that Manuel Neuer has made this season is insane. When the defense is defending on the halfway line, any mistake they make is a one-on-one chance. Even sometimes if it's not the defense's fault, if our midfield misplaces a pass, it ends up being a one-on-one chance. And I'm telling you, whatever you think, I know that people hold out for Buffon. I know that people hold out for Casillas. Whatever you think, my opinion is objective in that Manuel Neuer is the best one-on-one goalkeeper in the world. Whatever you think about any other part of his game, this guy one-on-one is undeniable. Like, and there's a psychological element as well. Even when teams beat our high line, even when they're quality players, like let's say Neymar, Mbappe, Depay is not bad in his own right. When you beat our high line, the job isn't over yet. You still have to overcome the final hurdle. And the sight of Manuel Neuer rushing out to meet you, that split second of you doubting yourself or not knowing what you're about to do next, or should I dummy him? Should I go around? Should I step over?
Because I say, what was very key was what he did against Depay, because him standing up for so long mentally put Depay off. That was key.
Yeah, that's true, man. I think he gets in the head of players. I've seen him try things in penalty shootouts where it's not so much him guessing right, but he just psychs the opponent out into doing what he wants them to do. He's a very intelligent player, Manuel Neuer, man. People say Edison is a better sweeper keeper than Manuel Neuer. Really?
No. Edison has made... No, what was good? Didn't he make the mistake against Leon and let's Leon's first goal? So,
100%.
Yeah, because Edison initially was, but I think you're now seeing some mistakes in his game.
I think Edison had a terrible game, man. I feel bad for Neubel. Apparently, Neubel is the next big thing, and they bought him out of Schalke. Apparently, he was handpicked by Manuel Neuer to succeed him. I don't know how this guy is ever going to get a game, dude. Like, how is this guy going to get a game at this moment? What do you think, Hope? What do you think, bro? Do you think he is the GOAT, man? Have you seen better than this man?
You see, my thing about it is that it's a conversation that should be had when he retires. But as of right now, there is a strong argument to be made, because I think if, for me, as again, Lev Yashin, I don't. The guys are, for me, him, Buffon, Kahn. I think it's between these three, and the reason why Neuer has a stronger case than them is if you look at the entirety of his career, the issue with Buffon is the decline. For Kahn as well, you saw him fading away. Neuer is still going strong. So maybe if we see a huge decline in his last few years, then maybe you can say, So when you just look at what it is right now, like, he's arguably the best that he's ever been as of right now. where people thought, oh, maybe his peak was in 2013, 2014. We got that his peak is right now. So there is a very strong case that he is perhaps the greatest. There's a strong case when you just look at the impact on his game, how he's revolutionized his position, the amounts of key games he has, the amount of key saves that he's made. I think it's a strong case, man. So last two topics here. Last three topics here. So let's talk CL. You see, before this Champions League campaign was made, so before the Champions League campaign, even through the group stages, everyone was saying Bayern, no one can beat them. They're too strong. Bayern. I think the thing was, they're going to go back to back. And I always said, chill. Let's just relax. Because the order here for blah, blah, you're being a hater, blah, blah. Nobody can beat Bayern. They're too strong. They're easily the best. And I said, look, let's just chill. Now you've now seen, because I almost want to even combine this into, so I want to combine CL talk and the Highline into, because people have said, oh, look, because this was the thing. If you look back at the Champions League, Bayern deserved it 100%. 2,000% they freaking deserved it. But you then say to yourselves that, man, what if you score those 1v1s? And then my theory is, if Bayern play the Highline again, what is the likelihood that those 1v1s will continue to be missed? That puts a lot of pressure on Neuer to be able to say what's up in those 1v1s, because people say, no, Neymar, you should have scored. Mbappe, you should have scored. Depay, you probably should have scored. Even Barcelona had some early chances in that 8-2 shakedown. But 100%, I think Bayern Munich are one of the favourites for sure. But there's definitely a call for Hansi Flick to at least tweak the system, specifically defensively, because teams who will now do their homework and so forth are now going to be prepare themselves for the Highline and say that, guys, they will train the F outs on 1v1s. They'll be watching tapes on Neuer, see what he does, look at his margins and say, guys, we're going to get at least 2 1v1s in this game. Just score 1 or 2 of those, we can beat these guys. So that is something I think Hansi Flick needs to address, because to one hand, he said no risk, no reward. This is what it is, how we play. We play with risk, and it gave us a reward, which was 3 trophies. So Bayern Fan TV, what are your feelings with regards to whether Bayern Munich can be the second team ever to defend their Champions League title, and do you think the Highline needs to be addressed?
So I want to say this first. I've been very much negative on Flick over the past couple of months, honestly. And I've been on record saying that I don't think we're going to win the Champions League this season. But my issue is I'm changing my mind right now, because the last 2 games, the game against Augsburg, I had to look up who we played 2 games ago, but the game against Augsburg, we had the best first half I've ever seen Bayern play. The issue was that the second half was so bad that it was the worst second half I've ever seen Bayern play. So, but then in the last game against Schalke, people will say it's Schalke. They're bottom of the Bundesliga. They've had such a massive losing streak, so on and so forth. But the thing that I liked that much in the game against Schalke was that it was 90 minutes and that it was constant pressing from our midfield, our attackers, and our defenders. So that's the thing that we've been lacking this season. You could say maybe fatigue, but for me, there is no real element of fatigue. Yes, there was a short preseason, but I think that's a cheap excuse to make. Oh, the players are tired. For me, that's a bad excuse to make, especially when you have so many players that you can constantly rotate. Now, the thing is, we've been able to rotate in the back. We've been able to rotate up front. We haven't been able to rotate in midfield because of the injuries. And for us, the midfield is the most crucial part, because the midfield is the thing that starts the pressing, which is why teams, they've had the opportunity to get the time to do that long ball, with our high line, and then get into these one-on-one situations, which is why we've been struggling so much. But now with our midfield pressing with that same intensity again, they get less chances. They get, maybe, instead of having 5 seconds on the ball in a one-on-one versus Neuer, now they only have 1 second on the ball because we press so far. So they have to play a much quicker ball, a worse ball, and they have to get to that ball and shoot immediately. Whereas, previously they had time to think on the ball, they had time to place their shot. Now they don't. So while I didn't think we could win the Champions League again this season, about 3 weeks ago, honestly, 4 weeks ago, if you would have asked me, I would have said, no way, we're losing against Lazio. Now I'm like, the competition really isn't that great either. Like the competition, you look at the favorites, you look at Liverpool, they're not that great at the moment. I'd say the only team that has done well this season is Manchester City. That's the only team, but I don't fear Manchester City because they don't have the players that hurt us. The team that has the players that hurt us are PSG, Leipzig, and Liverpool, because they have quick front threes, and that's exactly what you need. You need to have those players that are quick, that get the ball and are able to move right away. Because if you take your time, our fullbacks, Davis, he's coming to get you. Alaba, he's coming to get you. Boateng, people will say he's slow. He's actually not slow. It's just his acceleration. He takes a while to actually get into top speed. Sula is actually deceptively fast. He's just not mobile. He's just not able to turn left, right, but he's actually very, very quick. So we have very quick players in our team. So you don't have much time. But that's why I feel Liverpool so much, because they have, Sane, Salah. They have very quick and very direct players. Manchester City don't have that, so I'm not worried about Manchester City. PSG haven't impressed me at all this season, so I don't really fear them either, and I think we can definitely outscore them, so I'm not worried on that front. Because the Bayern's philosophy, the reason why we play so high, the reason why we play the way we do, is because we want to outscore our opponents. That's our mentality. If you score 3, we'll score 5, and it's very difficult to beat that. It's very difficult because if you go for the attack, against us, then you're going to concede goals. If you try and play, further back, if you try and defend, we're going to score goals because that's what we do. So it's very difficult to play against us, and we have the players that, once they play the way they want to, and once they play in the style that they want to, are lethal. For me, the most telling thing was in the game against Leipzig 4 or 5 weeks ago, when it was 3-3 in the 80th minute. After the game, Muller came out and he said that he was talking to Neuer and asking whether we should play all-out attacking football for the final 10 minutes, whether we should go for it and truly try and win the game. And ultimately, they decided against it because, at 1 point suits us more right now in the table. And if we go for 3 points, we might concede a goal. But for me, that's the most telling thing. This team, they want to go on the attack. And it's not just the coach, it's not just Flick that's deciding that, it's the players on the pitch. It wasn't Flick that said to Muller and just that said to Neuer, should we go all-out attack? It was Muller that said that to Neuer. Neuer, are you going to play further forward? Because then we go on the all-out attack. It was the players themselves. So the players...
So for you, looking at the field now, Champions League, what do you think could be the most effective approach? All-out attack, a bit more cautious, or tweak it based on the opponent?
For me, it's all-out attack. I don't think the team knows one way to play. And this kind of goes back to the difference between Flick and Kovac. Kovac was a lot more pragmatic. It was a lot more, okay, you know what, we're playing against Liverpool. Let us play a little bit more defensively. They can definitely hurt us. They can definitely do that. And ultimately, if we don't put the pressure on somebody, they're going to have all the ball, and they're going to have the ball, and they're going to have all the space in the world. Whereas under Flick, we're a lot more, let's win the ball. We want to play our style. The opponent, we will force them to submit to our style. And I feel that really works for Bayern. So from that perspective, I think an all-out approach, and then let the players on the pitch then decide, okay, do you want to go even more attacking, or do you want to hold that point? So you start with the baseline of, okay, we're going to attack. And then if they, in the 70th minute or so, if the players want to decide to even be more aggressive, let them do so. If they want to decide to be a lot more cautious, let them do so. I feel like Muller, as I think it was Sanmir said earlier, is the second coach. He is essentially Flick on the pitch. And these players have won so much that they know how they want to play. They're not gonna work if they play a different style. So for me, it's a case of let the players do what they want, and if everyone works 100%, if Kimmich works 100%, if in midfield, and then in the back, if you have Alaba, Davis, Pavard, who hasn't been that great honestly, and Boateng or Sula, whoever plays there, if they work all great, that's fantastic. Neuer, he's going to be fantastic. So you have all areas of the pitch. If they're all firing, I don't see anyone beating us.
All right, Sadmaya, Champions League, Bayern.
Okay, so yeah, I think we could win it. Like, I just don't know if we will win it. But we definitely have the players have the abilities to defend our Champions League. So, yeah. And is the second question the highline question?
Yeah, the Highlands. So,
Okay.
do you think that coming into this, you can still be effective with that all-out ultra attack with the Highland, or would you say tweak it because teams may find you as, or is it a case of like no, live and die by the philosophy that's got us here in the first place?
Okay. So I feel like last year, Flick used our quote unquote highline superbly. But this season it felt like Flick was using our highline a bit too extreme. Because last season it felt like it's kind of hard to describe it, but I felt like last season it felt almost like a high line and a mid block a bit in between. It was almost like a hybrid of high line and a mid block. I'm not sure
Okay.
if you understand what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean.
yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
but there were last season. I'm not saying there weren't games when we were like just going crazy highline because we did. It was against Barcelona. That game we went with the crazy highline approach. But this season, Flick just went with the extreme highline. But then after losing that DFB Pokal game, he got criticism, and then he was told like maybe it's better to go a bit more conservative with a mid block, and that's what he's been doing afterward. Like after the loss we played Freiburg, we played Augsburg, we played Schalke. We were playing more of a mid block, or you can say a highline mid block hybrid. So one thing about Flick that I realized is that he knows how to be conservative when he needed to. Like the Chelsea second leg, we weren't playing a crazy highline, and the PSG game, he knew how to adapt. He saw how Lyon got chances in the first half. What he did in the second half, we were like 5 to 10 meters like deeper. So he knows how to adapt, and I trust Flick to adapt to maybe like a mid block when he needs to. So I'm not too worried about that highline. It's just because I trust Flick. Like if he wants to use the highline, it has our advantages, like the Barcelona game. But against like opponents that are very good on the counters, that excel on the break, on the counter attacks, and they have speedy wingers that can attack our high line, he knows how to be more conservative when he needs to. So I trust Flick to make the right decision, and I feel like there will be varieties. Like he will use highline to our advantages, and he will use a mid block to suit our defense, to benefit our defense. So I trust Flick in making the right decision.
And bombast.
If you were to ask me, would I put money on the guys to repeat? I'm probably gonna, as much as it kills me, I'll probably say no. At the moment, see, last season was different, man. We could fart goals. It was no problem. So even if you beat the high line and concede, we can score. At the moment, our goal output has gone down. The high line is completely dependent on how effective you can press and win the ball back immediately after losing it, or immediately stopping their movements before it eventuates into a long ball or something like that. And we just can't do it. Like, I don't know what's going on at the moment, but we just cannot win the ball back fast enough, and teams are exploiting us. For me personally, highline wise, I would definitely approach games with a certain amount of caution. Even this Napoli game. Wait, is it Napoli or no? Lazio. Sorry, man.
Lazio.
Dude, approach with caution. But Bayern Fan TV was correct in saying, really, the team only knows how to play one way. And every time I see Hansi Flick trying to encourage the guys to pace yourself, grow in the game, heck, sideways passing. It's not the worst thing in the world. Just first 15, 20 minutes, settle in the game and dominate the midfield, push them back. and we're not able to be honest with you. Like, teams just see an opportunity and they come forward. And I'm not talking world-class attacks, by the way, man. Like, Florian Neuhaus bodied us. So, personally, Bayern Fan TV was also correct in saying that if we turn up on the day, there's no one that can really go with us, man. I don't care who you have. If we turn up on the day, it's over.
Yeah,
And it could be bad.
I think that I agree. Just that if Bayern played to the best of their abilities, they beat anybody who plays at the best of their abilities. I feel, believe me, yeah.
That's true, man. So at the moment, you're talking about Man City. I don't want that smoke, man. I don't want that game, to be honest. Like, Man City, I never, ever believed in Man City before. I never saw anything in this team that would scare me in the CL. But this season, I see something different in these guys. And it could be their year, to be honest with you. Like, admit it, there's something different about City this season. I think top to bottom, it looks like a really well-run unit, and they look hungry for it. Real Madrid is a team I never want to play, man, ever again. I never, ever want to face these, even though I want revenge on them so badly, because we always outplay them and just find ways to lose the game. And Real Madrid get so gassed, man. They need that beatdown. They do need that beatdown, but I know that even if Real Madrid are having their worst season ever for the Bayern Munich game, you can't deny that they will find a way to win the game. They will come up with the levels. So I don't want that game either. Liverpool, I am more confident about that game than I was, like, let's say maybe last season or something like that. Especially, I mean, their defense at the moment. Our defense has its issues, but their defense at the moment is almost non-existent, man. Can we? Possibly. Will we? I don't think so. Man. I just think in order to play the way that we need to play, fatigue is just not allowing it at the moment. And same with Liverpool, man. Teams that have a high intensity, high output.
Specifically
again,
with this COVID season as well.
That's exactly what it is, man. Games are coming at you thick and fast. Players don't have a chance to rest. Even if it's not your body, you become mentally tired from so much concentration and effort and intensity. And it's not really possible. But again, if we turn up on the day, it'll happen. I just doubt our ability to do so. That's all.
All right. So now this is an interesting one because this is sort of going back in time, and this came from what we were sort of discussing on a hangout. So I'll show you. Trebles, man. So Bayern Munich have won 2 trebles. And I think that these are probably 2 of the most formidable trebles that they've won. And we're having a huge debate on the hangout on this. And we couldn't, I don't think we came up with a consensus as to which was the better treble, which was the better team, which was the greater achievement. The 2020 treble and the 2013 treble. So let me just tell you where I'm at with this whole thing. 2 amazing trebles. And I want to add that the single game format doesn't take away from what the 2020 team did, because I think that they would have still gotten that ass and beat the crap out of teams, even if it was over two legs. Like over 2 legs, that Barca team was not going to beat Bayern. Lindsay was not going to beat Bayern over 2 legs. It was not happening. And it's difficult because, you look at the 2020 team and look at what Lewandowski did. Look at the football that they played. Look at how attacking they were, and look at just how strong they were as a unit. You look at the 2013 team, look at what they did to Barcelona, a better Barcelona side than we saw in 2020. And also you just saw the levels as which Robin and Ribery reached. I think, this is difficult because I say back to front, which is the better team? Because again, I was never that big of a fan of Dante in defense, really. And you look at this Bayern side, it's an older Boateng. Alaba did very well, but again, he was sort of ghosting in defense, but he did well. But again, it's an older Boateng and so forth. So it's even hard to say which is the better overall team. Where I am with it is, I just feel that from a mental point of view, based on what happened to them the previous season, I think that 2013 team just had an extra edge to them. And I think, this is what we did say. The 2013 team, Juve were Serie champions. They beat them. I believe Barca won La Liga. They beat them as well. Who did they play in the second
Arsenal.
round? So Arsenal. Okay, yeah. But I just think that the quality of opposition that team faced and the way that they dealt with them, the way that they beat them, sort of they achieved that degree of difficulty tip. And I just feel like if based on what happened to them in 2012, I think there was just an extra mean nature to them. But you look at that Bayern 2020 team, I just think like they just hit something. And it was like, boom, nobody stopped them. So it's even now that I'm thinking about it, it's really hard. So I actually can't decide because there are pros and cons. I don't think on an individual level, individual performance level, the 2020 team had players to the level of Schweinsteiger, Robben, and Ribery. But I think as a unit, as a total unit and as a group, I think the 2020 team was stronger as a group than the 2013 team. So as of right now, I actually can't decide. So let me go through you guys. So Bayern Fan TV, better team, greater treble. How do you compare both treble sides?
Okay, so greater treble. I want to start with that one. The greater treble was the 2012-2013 one. And I think that's actually quite easy to say. That team was hungry. That team was determined. No team in the world could have stopped them at all. That team went through every single match. They played through every single, I think the only game that we lost that year, I might be wrong, but the only game that we lost that year was against Leverkusen, 2-1. I think that was it. Like that team was hungry. That team went for it. It went for the jugular, and all the players, they knew how they wanted to play. They, if they were beating you 5-0, they would go for the next goal. If they were beating you 6-0, they would go for the next goal. If they were beating you 7-0, they would go for it again. That team didn't know how to stop. It's probably my favorite Bayern team of all time in terms of just watching them play, because they all worked brilliantly. Now, in terms of what is the better team, if we're talking about just the first 11, I would say the 2013 team. And that's because of Muller. That's because of Robben, Ribery. Those three. I know we didn't have Lewandowski, but the first team, I think, was stronger. You have Lam as a right back. You have Alaba, hitting his peak, I guess, as a left back. So you have all these factors. Then you have Javi, who was monumental that season. He was huge. And you have Schweinsteiger. And when Schweinsteiger is motivated, he is big. Like, he comes up huge. In the big performances, he will show you how good he is. Case in point, the 2014 World Cup final, where he really wanted it, and he just destroyed that midfield. So from a first team 11, I would say the 2013 team edges it just slightly. But as a squad overall, I'd say definitely the 2020 team. Because the 2020 team, if you look at the squad as a whole, as your winger, you've got we had the likes of Perisic, we had Coutinho on the bench, we had Pavard on the bench, we had, in terms of defenders, we had Boateng, yes, an older Boateng, okay, fair enough, but Boateng this last season was still very, very good. It's not like he declined dramatically, but he was still very, very good. You had Alaba, you had Lucas Hernandez, you have such a big bench that you didn't have in 2013. In 2013, your right back, your alternative to Philipp Lahm was Rafinha, and the alternative to David Alaba, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Contento. So, you don't have that same depth as you do now, as the team does have now. So as an overall team, if you were to ask me, who would win if those two teams played against each other, I would say the 2013 team leads 2-1 until the 70th minute, and then the 2020 team does its substitutions, and suddenly the 2020 team wins. But if it's just no substitutions, just 90 minutes of football, one team against the other, the 2013 team wins. If we're including substitutions and we're including the bench, the 2020 team wins. That's the way I view it.
Okay. Sanmai, how about you? How do you view these two sides?
Yeah, so for me, I prefer the 2013 treble. So I'm just gonna start by saying, even in 2020, if there wasn't lockdown, if there wasn't lockdown, we still would likely win the Champions League. But I have to say, I feel like the 2020 Bayern treble team had more advantages than the 2013. By advantages, I mean Champions League was one leg. It resumed it resumed when the domestic football was complete. Bayern had breaks in between, such as the lockdown due to coronavirus, and 1 month break when Bundesliga and DFB Pokal finished in July. So we had that 1 month break. And besides compare it to 2013 treble, I should say. Besides the winter break in 2013, Bayern's schedule was ongoing. Our players didn't have any extra breaks. Our players would have to focus on Bundesliga, and then next week they would, let's say, have a Champions League game, and then they also have DFB Pokal games at times. So I feel like the degree of difficulty is much greater in that aspect. There were 2 legs at that time, so it was much harder for Jupp to manage our stamina and intensity than Flick. And we also, and in 2013 we also our players finished the Euros, and our players had their late Champions League run. So the way Jupp Heynckes managed our stamina and intensity was just tremendous, and I feel like that's why the degree of difficulty is greater, because we had lesser breaks, and overall our players were I'm pretty sure our players in 2013 felt more pressure, because when we lost that 2012 Champions League final, we got humiliated, lost 5-2 to Dortmund. We should have won the 2012 Bundesliga. We didn't. Dortmund came back and won the Bundesliga. The manner we overcome that, securing 91 points in the Bundesliga and then winning a treble, is just insane. So therefore, I prefer 2013 treble team. And I also think our first starting 11 in 2013 team was better. Like, our defense was stronger, our midfield was better, our attack work was better. So the only thing 2020 team edges over 2013 was our squad depth. That's it.
Wait, so who played left back in the 2013 team?
Alaba.
Oh, he did still. Oh, okay, wow, so he was there. Okay. Bombast, 2013 or 2020?
The better team is the 2012, 2013. I mean, there's no really debating that, I think. I mean, you have some... I think Philip Lahm is the best right back of all time. One of the best captains I think I've ever seen. Schweinsteiger was doing his thing, man. On his day, Schweinsteiger was looking like the best midfielder in the world, the best tempo controller. You have Ribéry and Robben, and at times, as good as you do see Gnabry and Coman, they don't hold a candle, really. I mean, they're nowhere near that sort of level at this point in time, you know? Mandzukic is an underrated striker, man.
Very underrated. One of the most underrated big game players there are, because this guy has scored in 2 Champions League finals. He scored the winning goal in the World Cup semi, and he has scored in a World Cup final. And in a big game, the guy always shows up.
Deceptively dangerous, man. And so that was the better team. For me, the better treble was 2020. As a performance, I have never been as entertained by football as when I see these guys doing their thing. That's one. Number two, what you see as an advantage, being the COVID ball thing, I see as adversity. Dude, it's not easy to motivate yourself to go and score 8 goals against Barcelona in front of an empty stadium somewhere outside of Germany. Like, how do you find the levels after, like, you have no momentum? The game has stopped. You're basically sitting on the couch for whatever it was, 6 weeks or something like that. But our team, did you see how Goretzka came out of that thing, man?
Terminator.
I think the personal trainer they've got down there is juicing these players, man.
Yeah, no. It's juicing, yeah.
So, personally, man, I think as a performance, have you ever seen domination like that before?
Oh, no, look. 8-2 was. I don't want to offend anyone, but 8-2 was daylight rape. That was daylight rape.
Broad
so,
daylight on the
yeah,
street.
it was broad daylight. I mean, like for me, like that is one of the most. Because in a way, that was worse than 7-1, just in the manner in which the goals were sort of going. Like 7-1 is just something weird, but there was just something. The way that Barcelona got manhandled, like I think Bayern effectively have like ended an era with what they did in 8-2. So that 8-2 was just because this is the funny thing, because I remember that 7-0 over 2 legs against Barcelona and how crazy it was that they beat the crap out of them in both, specifically winning 3-0 in Camp Nou. I was like, man, that's wild. Yes, it's a much weaker Barcelona team, but scoring 8 goals in a single game is insane,
I'm with you, man. And I can't say in any objective sense. I cannot prove that treble is better than this treble or vice versa. I'm just saying from a subjective point of view, for me, I've thoroughly enjoyed this treble. And I also enjoyed it for things outside of the game. Like, for instance, jumping on the Hangout after the 8-2 and seeing your Twitch live feed and the way we all enjoyed it together and the way that it's encapsulated on video for life. Like, we can always go back and watch the feed again and stuff like that. And just how much fun we had with it all. For me,
because I see for me, like it's been such a difficult year and so forth. But that was literally one of the highlights of the that night. What happened that night and the reaction afterwards, for me, like that's just one of the most special nights I've ever had. Man.
I agree, man. And I was glad to share it with everyone. And I've been subscribed to the Have Hope Hut for 3 years, 4 possibly, maybe longer. I've been with you for a while, man. But for me personally, that was the pinnacle of the Have Hope Hut. Like that Twitch feed, the initial reactions of silence, shirtless and battered, just sitting there, and then getting the guys on and the shock of it all, and then capping it off with the victory. I thought we actually performed really quite well against a pretty well-organized PSG side in the final. I think Thomas Tuchel gave them every opportunity to win that game, man. I thought they had ample opportunities to put away their chances, and Tuchel wasn't on the pitch to finish the chances, man. If Mbappe had shot the ball rather than pass the ball to Manuel Neuer, you would be looking at Thomas Tuchel in a completely different light.
Because it's one of those things, because it's like you look back at that final and you see this thing about football is, if only. You could almost say that for every game. It's like, but you didn't. You could keep on saying if only, but you didn't. So, but they did. The point of football is put the ball inside the net. The point of football is not to try and put the ball inside the net, is to put the ball inside of the net. And Bayern did that. So, hence why I always say that the worst thing that people say in football is that, we deserve to win. Deserve has nothing to do with it. Did you score more goals than the other team? If you did it, then you didn't deserve to win. So just think that for PSG, the chances were there. You didn't put them away. When Bayern had their chance, they put them away, and it is what it is. So
yeah, man, I'm with you, dude. Like, it wasn't just the football, it was things outside of the football. It was like the story. Do you remember how excited we were that this unique format of the Champions League games were coming at us thick and fast? It was like a celebration of football. It was like a two-week football festival. And the amount of narratives that were going on, man, and like you took your narrative merchancy to a new level and stuff like that. The Prodigy stuff, you had the Neymar stuff, you had treble versus treble, and you had PSG's first ever, can they do it? You had Bayern Munich's adversity, like where did this guy come from? How are they reaching these levels? And it all came together, and I think it was a celebration of football. So for me, the memory of this treble was sweeter, given the circumstances of the world and where we were with everything, than necessarily the other. Although the other team was a better assembled team, I would say. That's how I see it.
You see, that's an interesting way that you put it. I think if you take everything into account, I think the 2013 team was better. But because of COVID and what COVID was, I think that 2020 team will always be special because 2020 was such a unique year. And 8-2 was such a seismic moment in football history. And the fact that they were the team that went through and won through the COVID year, and based on just how we were all locked at home in our houses and so forth, I think perhaps the way that we received the Champions League was a bit more special than in any year in history, So, all right, final topic, man. And this is always, so always do these things. It's called a throwback. So where I put up an image, you spend some time on the image, and you then give me your thoughts when you see said image. So I'm going to just bring up the image right now. Just give yourself like a few seconds just to view the image, and then tell me your thoughts and emotions when you see this image, man. There it is right there. There it is right there. I mean, I'll kick off and I'll come to Bayern Fan TV, man. You see, for me, it's like, it's important when you play football. You have a different appreciation of the sport. You see, again, I don't want to demean or put down anybody, but I think for people who don't play for football, they're like attackers, Cristiano Messi, and that's it because they don't play football. So they just say goals, assists. Because I remember one time in a hangout, I think it was even Jujuman who said, "Man, you can't give a Ballon d'Or to a defender. No one cares about defenders." Like, Jujuman, come on, bro. But I think when you play football, you look at things in much more detail and you have a better appreciation for all the roles, and having played football and so forth, and especially when you're going up against defenders and so forth, you appreciate just how difficult defending is. And I think, because we're talking about captains and about how you have different captains. So there's a captain you have who's like an Oliver Kahn. He shouts, he's very aggressive and he's very loud and so forth. Then there's the other captain who he doesn't say anything, but he's a silent leader because he leads by example on the pitch and he demands so much. He's well respected in the dressing room. So because he's so well respected, people feel they can go to him and so forth. He doesn't have to say much. And that was the kind of guy that your boy Bart Simpson was. Because for me, in terms of his ball control, his balance, his crossing, his consistent output on that flank, and his tackling, never received a red card. When you just look at just how clean his tackling was and the kinds of games he was in. Because remember, this guy played Euros, World Cups, specifically in the Champions League as well. The players he had to go up against 1v1 as a right back. See, not getting a red card as a centre back is different from a right back. Because right back, especially if your opposite number is a very skillful player, it's a very, very difficult 90 minutes for you. That requires high concentration. So just think that for Lam, when you just look at his game and just look at just how good he was as a footballer, because why I admire it is I like the guys that show that two flex. So he can go forward, he can get past players, but he also knows his responsibilities defensively. So positional sense, marking, tackling, 1v1s, marshalling that back four. And I just think that, he really encapsulated, I think, the heights of Bayern. We already talked about the 2013 team, which you could argue is Bayern's greatest ever team. And he was a large part in that. And also, before I come to Bayern Fan TV, I didn't like him being put into DM because I felt that he was a stronger right back. But the fact that he was so good in the DM and he played there so well, and it goes to show from Pep Guardiola, because remember, Pep is very difficult to play in a Pep team because Pep demands high technique. And the fact that Pep said that he is the smartest player that he's ever coached just shows you the kind of level of football IQ that you're dealing with. So, Bayern Fan TV, talk to me about Bart Simpson.
Okay. Favorite player of all time? Best player of all time?
Wow.
I'm not taking that back. So you mentioned that, you used to play football. I used to play football as well. And the two main positions that I played were goalkeeper and fullback. It was left back, then right back, then left back, then right back again. So I always appreciate defense a lot more. I'm not one of those people that really like attackers that much, because with attackers, it's a lot more down to individual brilliance. Whereas with defenders...
Sorry, real quick, let me just talk about, again, it's cool that you mentioned, this is what I always say. I think a defender even said this. An attacker can make 300 mistakes in a game. Yep. All he has to do is just score once and he's a hero. Mm-hmm. A defender can do 300 things right throughout a game. He makes one mistake, he's a villain.
Yeah.
That is just the kind of harsh life of the defender and the attacker.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why, for me, he is my favorite player, and for me, he's the greatest player. Because for me, I'm a little bit different in this. That I don't value peaks that much, and I don't value the big moments where you come up. I know you do very much, like where you value if you come up in a World Cup, if you do perform there. I don't really value that too much. For me, what matters is consistency. For me, that's the number one thing, consistency, which is why Philip Lahm, for me, he hasn't ever been bad. Like, that's the thing. He's always been, like, when he played left back, when he started his career as a left back, he was amazing. Then he was put as a right back. He was amazing. He's essentially the reason the club currently is as good as it has been since, I would say, since 2000, honestly, since 2010, roughly around 2010. I think that's when he wrote his book, and he criticized the Bayern management. With his book, he criticized that the club, they were just signing big players after big players. But instead of buying players that really suit the system, instead of buying players that really suit the team, and for a captain, for a just a player to say that about the management, about like Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and Uli Hoeneß, the people that they can decide if you're getting a new contract or not. For him to come out and say that openly in his book says a lot. And then the fact of the matter is, the club, they fined him, granted, but then later on, after in that season, they bought players that suited the system. Since then, they've been buying players that suit the system. And it's very telling as well that 2010, Champions League final. 2012, Champions League final. 2013, Champions League victory. 2014, he won the World Cup. So Bayern really hasn't been that successful. Like, besides like the 1973, 1972, 1973, and 1974 team. Sorry, 1973, 1974, 1975 team, where we had the likes of Sepp Maier, Gerd Müller, Franz Beckenbauer, Schwarzenbeck, Brighton. Now we had like probably the best. I'd say probably the best Bayern team of all time. Actually, we haven't really been that successful. Yes, we've been in a Champions League final in 1999, 2001, but it has never been like this sustained period of time where we dominate the Bundesliga and where we're a main force in the Champions League. So for me, he is my favorite player of all time because for me, I view it as like he's the player that brought that success, not just single-handedly, of course, but he's the player that was instrumental in bringing that success to Bayern. And because of his consistency at the absolute top level, regardless of right back, regardless of, as we mentioned, defensive midfielder, regardless of where he played early in his career as a left back, to me, he personifies how I would want to play football, which is not necessarily be flashy, not necessarily be, the biggest star ever. I know everyone, you see a video of Ronaldinho. I think we've all seen videos of Ronaldinho and they want to play football. Yes, that's all good and fine. But at the end of the day, I'd much rather be successful. I'd much rather be successful at one thing, and that's consistency, rather than being the best dribbler, rather than being the best technically gifted player. I just want to be successful, have a good career, great career, and be the leader, the captain. And for me, he wasn't the loudest captain on the pitch, as I said, the quiet leader. But I think his actions with his book and his actions with his statements as well about not just the players, not just the manager, but also the higher up management says a lot. That for me, that really speaks of leadership. Because if they said, you know what, we don't like what you're saying, we're canceling your contract, that would have been the end for him at Bayern. But now he said what he wanted to say, regardless of the consequences. And you know what? It's for the better.
Well said, man. Salmaya, talk to me.
Yeah, Lam, one of the greatest right backs of all time. He captained Bayern when we won the treble in 2013. He captained Germany when we won the World Cup in 2014. He is what I call like Mr. Consistency. Great right back. His tackles are superb. His footballing ability is very good. Like one thing that made Robin very effective was his partnership, his chemistry with Philip Lahm. It's like the two link up play, the two, like when Lahm he knows when Lahm will overlap so that Robin can use Lahm as an extra outlet so that he can cut in and shoot. His partnership with Robin was just such a joy to watch. Like he's one of my favorite memory about Lahm was actually seeing it's actually quite ironic because
Mm.
because it was this was such a tragic game, but like the 2012 when everyone just lied down, when everyone was just so upset, and him just standing up, just comforting all the players, and that just speaks who he is, a true leader, a true captain. He just
Because
showed
that was a very difficult game to lose a
you lose at
CL
home,
final in your home
and
ground.
you being there up there standing still, so calm, and him just comforting his own teammates. That just speaks of a true leader who Philipp Lahm perfectly is. He is one of the greatest captains of all time. He is, in my opinion, Bayern's greatest ever captain, and I just he played from Bayern Academy, and him retiring at Bayern is just I still miss watching him. I still wish I would take him at right back right now, if I'm being honest. I would take him at right back. So honestly, I miss watching this guy.
Bombast, round us off, man.
If you wanted to say Cafu is the best right back of all time, I wouldn't hold it against you, personally. Like, I understand the case for him. For me, it's Philipp Lahm. And not just as right back, but his captaincy is... Do you know the amount of times I saw Philipp Lahm shake hands at the beginning of a game, you know, when they exchange flags and stuff? And the person who he's usually shaking hands with, let's say Buffon, let's say Sergio Ramos, players like this, they always tower over him. They're so much tall. They're always looking down on him. But I promise you, the respect for this man is paramount. This is one of the most respected footballers in the modern generation. He is, again, a consummate professional. He has a spirit of excellence. And that, I believe, was his captaincy. I mean, yeah, he wasn't as loud as Oliver Kahn. I don't think many players were. I think I saw Oliver Kahn grab a player by the neck once.
Oh, yeah. No. There's a famous picture where he has his face right up to someone's face where, like, their noses are even bent. That's how close was the guy's face, man. So, yeah.
Like, this is a man that wasn't afraid to choke someone on the pitch like they were Bart Simpson, and he was... Yeah, like... So this guy did everything leading by example. And he brought Bayern back into... Like, I know Oliver Kahn grinded out a Champions League, but this guy brought Bayern into, like, the forefront again. He brought Bayern back into, like, a titan of European football again. And not only that, let's say 2010 Champions League final, bro, I thought we were going to win that game. Mourinho said no. So came close, and yeah, it didn't happen for him. 2010 World Cup, Germany played some awesome football. I thought they were going to win it. Spain said no. 2012 Euro, Germany played good football. I thought they were going to win it. Spain said no. 2012 Champions League final. I thought we were going to win it. We should have won it. I can't believe how we lost it. But Chelsea said no. Do you know what it takes, mental strength, to come so close and lose? The difference between Michael Ballack...
No. Sorry. 2012 was Italy. It was Italy that beat them in the semi.
Yeah. Again, I thought we were going to lose. I don't know how we lost it, but we did. Like, I think the mental strength it takes for someone to come close and lose, but then overcome all of this defeats and win is huge, man. Like, the mentality of this guy is so big. And again, going back, when Joachim Löw took the captaincy away from Michael Ballack and gave it to Philipp Lahm, I didn't know how I felt about that, because Michael Ballack was the man. Michael Ballack was there for Germany when there was no one else for Germany, man. And I wasn't sure about that decision, but that was probably one of the few things that Joachim Löw got right, man, to be fair to him. Do you guys remember that goal against Costa Rica?
Oh, yes. I remember exactly where I was watching it, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first kind of moment where I thought, who's this guy, man? Like, what a goal. And only to think that I would be seeing so much of this guy putting in so many awesome, reliable performances for either Germany or Bayern Munich. I was so sad when he retired, man. So sad. I mean, the guy basically lifted up the World Cup trophy, turns around to Joachim Löw and says, I'm done out here. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think you could go on. Like, seriously, I think you can go on. But going back to another passion of mine, Batman. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think Schweinsteiger did that. He explored beyond what his body could possibly give. And that sort of spoils it. I think Buffon definitely did that, bro. Like, definitely. He is still exploring that idea.
Yeah, 100, yeah. No, 100%. Like, he should have retired time ago, hence why he's harming his legacy. But
it's true. People think you can't harm your legacy, but I disagree, man. I think everything's on the table. And Philip Lahm said, I don't think it'll ever get better than this, man. And I'm tired. I'm tired of going far in tournaments. I'm tired of captaining. I'm tired of the expectation of this country, of the club fans and all that sort of stuff. I'm done, man. Thank you very much for everything. I'm out of here for the national team. So, I don't know, man. What do you think? Like,
no, for me,
how is this guy not riding on a horse, Hope? How did this guy on foot, but other players have horses?
Look, the horseback thing is very difficult to get. It's very difficult, but he is definitely hovering near the bar. Look, I've always said that, obviously, I think Cafu, you have Carlos Alberto, and so forth. I think that he is the best right back out there. And I see, because I saw someone view in the comments saying that's who grows up to be wanting to be a defender, who wants to like themselves to be a defender. But then again, it's like, you have to understand football. There are different people that view football a different way because it depends on the kind of country you're from. If you're from maybe like England and so forth, or Holland, defending isn't glamorous. But if you come from Germany or Italy, it's made more glamorous and there is a quality to it. And I think, because even for me, my position in football was central midfield. And people will think it's crazy, but I actually have more satisfaction producing a through ball than actually scoring a goal. Obviously, scoring a goal is a big thing and everything, but based on the kind of technical skill it takes to try and create a chance for someone and create a through ball, that's for me gave me more satisfaction than scoring a goal. So for some defenders, like a perfectly executed tackle, cleanly winning the ball, for them can be even greater than maybe winning a goal. So it just depends on how people view the game and so forth. And I think the beauty about football is it isn't just about scoring goals. It's about passing. It's about dribbling. It's about tackling. It's about positioning. It's about making those runs. The entire aspects of football is what makes it the greatest sport in the world. And I think that he so excelled at that particular skill of being a right back and being a defender that you just have to appreciate how good he was at that specific skill. And I think the beauty about football is there are so many different roles that require so many different disciplines that you have to admire all these guys: the central defender, the DM, the right back, the left winger, the inside forward, the target man, then the number 10, the complete striker, because all these different roles all have different tools about them, man. So guys, man, this has been swell, man. This has been good. Thank you for joining in and so forth. Maybe we'll have another one in the next week because we have other clubs to go through. And look, I'll just say that I think Bayern Bundesliga, I still think that they'll win it, although Leipzig are going to push them. Champions League is going to be interesting. I think the Champions League is going to be interesting. And I'm not sure who said it. I think it was Bombast that said it. Bayern can win the Champions League. I don't think they will. I think we're going to have a winner other than Bayern Munich. But as someone said, if they can find their best form and maintain their best form, I don't know who beats them. Because I think if they can just go at that all-out attack and be as ruthless as they are in all-out attack, I'm not sure who beats them. So guys, thank you to Bayern Fan TV. Thank you to Sanmar. Thank you to Bombas. I'll try and share their Twitter handles and so forth when I get on Twitter so you can follow them and so forth. And guys, we'll see you next Tuesday for our next thing, which might be Juventus or PSG, but it might be Juve. So guys, peace out. Stay true, stay real, guys. Peace.
Thanks,
Bye.
See you guys.
Peace.